All right, very good morning, everybody, from the flight deck once again. Welcome to another live stream here with me, Captain Nabs, live on Twitch. We are doing another Pilot's Live stream. It's been too long. Once again, it's been a month since I did my last stream, and yeah, summer is hectic, and September is shaping up to be much the same. I do enjoy doing this, but just finding the time, poking a hole in my schedule that's large enough to do this with all the other commitments I have going on in my life, it can be a challenge sometimes. But nevertheless, I found the time today, so let's go and do it, everybody. And as you can see, we are still flying the Airbus. That's the Airbus with the IAE engines on it. We're still flying for Scandinavian. And where am I? See if I can find myself here. There I am. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. And yeah, we are going to be continuing our Pilot's Life career. So it's been a month, but if anybody has forgotten, we are currently parked here in Copenhagen. Right here in Copenhagen, and today's flight, I'm just going to turn off the auto follow for a second just to show you what we're doing. We are doing we're going to the big time. We are flying from Copenhagen southwest until we arrive in London Heathrow. That's right, one of the busiest the busiest international airport in the world, one of the busiest airports in the world, and we're going to visit it, and it never fails to disappoint. It's a fantastic. Fantastically busy airport on VATSIM all the time. I'm just pulling up the VATSIM radar on my other screen just so I can see if there is any ATC yet. It is kind of mid-afternoon. No, nothing happening in London yet. But hopefully there will be something happening in London by the time we get there. It is... especially as you get into the afternoon, it never fails to be a very busy airport, first of all. So if nothing else, we're going to have a heck of a time negotiating our way through the airspace if there's no ATC, and if there is ATC, well, then more the better. We're going to have great ATC. Just noticing my camera is a little askew there, or my track hire is a little askew there. We're going to have great ATC, and yeah, so it should be a great experience. May not have as much time to talk about stuff as I like to, as I tend to in my North American streams, but I'll gladly trade that off for being busy and actually doing the job here of being a pilot and flying the airplane. So, yeah, that's what we're up against today. We are still flying the Airbus for Scandinavian, and today we are we got a target takeoff time of 20 after the hour, 14:20 Zulu for the 2-hour and 10-minute flight to London. Now, before we get underway with that, there's one thing we need to review, of course, and that is from our flight plan. If I can pull up my flight plan here. This is actually an MEL I saw the other day, and I didn't actually end up flying it. The airplane I was proposed to fly had this MEL on it. It was fixed by the time I got to it, but I saw it and I was just like, that's a neat one. I'd like to go with that one a little bit. So if I can just get this stupid thing to work here. Here we are. All right, so here is our flight plan for the day. You guys should be able to see that. Let me just check. Yes, you can see that. Not sure how well you can see it, but right there in the middle there is the MEL. So if I can zoom in just a little bit more, you'll easily be able to read it. MEL number 242201 Alpha, IDG1 disconnected. So IDG, or integrated drive generator number 1. So the electrical generator on engine 1, which is the engine we're looking at right there in the corner of our screen, has been disconnected, was probably disconnected in the last flight due to, in this case, we're going to say it was due to a overheat. You can read the logbook usually and see what the entry was. IDG oil overheat requires the IDG to be disconnected before it becomes a hazard and potentially catches fire or something else like that. So the IDG was disconnected, and it needs to be reconnected by maintenance, but of course they have to fix the problem before they can necessarily do that. So in this case, we're going to say that it was not done. It does say that this is a high priority maintenance item and should generally be fixed within one flight day. And really, having a generator offline, having one of your two main generators offline, is a very serious situation. So this is one of those cases where the MEL really is meant to be applied in a certain way. It's meant to be applied as a means to get the aircraft home. So what I'm doing here is not necessarily totally realistic, because Copenhagen is a home base for Scandinavian. It is unlikely they would send their 320 with a disconnected generator to London Heathrow of all places, just to really kind of throw it out there. They would say no. We're gonna either fix it now, or we're gonna find you a different airplane to do this, because it's a pretty serious malfunction. It is possible, and the whole point of the MEL The minimum equipment list is to get the aircraft back to home base so it can be fixed by company mechanics, not necessarily requiring it to be fixed at an outstation where it's contract mechanics who may not have the know-how, they may not know the procedures. There may not even be maintenance at certain outstations. If you go to some of the smaller airports, maybe resort destinations, things like that, there may not even be Airbus maintenance on site. So the whole point of this is just to get it back to home base. So what I'm doing today, probably not realistic for it to actually go outbound with the IDG offline, but I thought it was a neat MEL, so I would like to, I thought let's do it for something different. So that's what we've got with us today. So before we do anything else, let's just consult the MEL binder. Now we say MEL binder, but it's not really a binder anymore. Now, of course, it's just a PDF. Back in the day, it used to be a binder, and actually some aircraft still do have it. Actually, the buses I fly still have paper copies. We generally use the digital copy, but there, as a backup, there's a paper copy, and the paper copy is thick. This is a 2,070-page document, so there's two, like, 3-inch binders in the flight deck that are jammed full of paper that are the current copy of the MEL. Anywho, right here at the very top, 242201 Alpha. Maybe if I can just zoom this a little bit more here. Just to make sure that, nope, let's go. Just to make it a little bit easier to read. So repair interval C, for this airline, repair interval C is 30 days, which, yeah, anyways. Our airline, they do not treat it as a 30-day. They treat it as a try to fix it the same day or the next day item. Number installed 2, number required 1. One may be an option to provide that ETOPS is not conducted. So we don't need ETOPS to go to London today. The flight altitude is limited to 33,500 feet, which actually I didn't check that on the flight plan. I got to recheck the flight plan to make sure. The APU and AC auxiliary generation are operative and used throughout the flight, so you have to leave the APU generator running the whole flight. APU fuel pump is operative, and the APU oil quantity is checked to be adequate before each flight. All buses have power. The indications and alerts for the remaining AC generation and AC auxiliary generation are operative, and the automatic galley load shed system is checked operative. Oil, obviously, so we're going to use the APU as the backup, as the second power source. So we still have 2 electrical power sources at all times. The APU oil quantity is not something that's checked every flight. It's something that's usually checked every few days to a week by maintenance. But because the APU now is such a critical system for this particular flight, because it supplies one of our 2 generators that we're going to have available, we have to check it every flight to make sure there is sufficient oil. So we're going to check that. We're also going to do some checks after we start the airplane, just to make sure that everything is working properly. And then if we go to the ops task for 242201, so we'll go down here to electrical 24, and just fast forward here through 2422, and this is it right here. 24. No, this is not it. This is it here. 242201 Alpha. So APU fuel consumption with APU generator push button switch on is increased. So because the APU is running the whole flight, it's burning gas, which means you have to increase your consumption, which I also did not actually account for in my flight plan. And when external power is disconnected, the IFE is lost until the APU supplies electrical network. During cockpit preparation, so we have to do a galley automatic load system check. We can't really do this, but what we do is we basically, in the flight deck, make sure the galley power is on auto. We pull the circuit breaker for the galley power logic, and then check to make sure that it has in fact pulled, that it has actually stopped electrical things in the galley from functioning. So check the oven, check the coffee maker, turn on something in the galley, and make sure that the power was cut off properly. Can't actually simulate that in the Fenix, so we're going to say that that was done. However, we can do the following check, which is done after engine start. So before engine start, check that the disconnect message is displayed on the electrical SD page. It probably won't show up today just because of the way Fenix is structured. We can't actually remove it unless I actually remove it, unless I actually disconnect it after we start the engine. But in theory, it would already be disconnected. And then after engine start, we've got a checklist to do here as well. For economical reasons, the IDG should not operate for more than 50 flight hours in disconnected mode. It will wear out that connection. It's not designed to be disconnected for a long time. It's designed as an emergency stopgap measure, so it's not good for the airplane. But it works for a temporary short period of time. So that's what we're up against today, just to add and pile on to stuff we're going to do, just to make it more interesting. But that's what we got today. So without further ado, we're going to hop in the flight deck. We're going to get this wagon train started. I'm going to turn up the volume now that we're not outside the airplane. I'm going to not worry so much about the sounds of other things outside the airplane, other airplanes and such, and we're going to go ahead and do this. Let's start setting up. Nope, apparently that's not going to work. Where is my...
Making stop traffic, 71549, position Alpha 14,
there.
Push start, release point, Yankee 0, Castro.
Let's start setting up. Let's start setting up. It should be working. Let's start setting up. Crying out loud. FS2 crew, I love you when you work, but sometimes.
Audio test complete. Audio test complete.
Okay, so that obviously works. And it's obviously finding it because it sees... I'm forever troubleshooting this thing, and it's frustrating sometimes. Let's start setting up. It hears it. It recognizes the command. Apparently it just does not want to start. Let's start setting up. All right. Well, since they're not listening, actually not correct anyways, because I had selected the female first officer and now we get the male first officer, so I might just shut this down and restart it because it seems like it's just not quite doing what it's supposed to do here. And this seems to be my life right now. Like every time I go to fly this simulator, it seems like I spend at least 10 minutes troubleshooting before I ever get to fly. It is a constant battle. It is an unfortunate and constant battle to try and get this simulator to run. Let's start setting up. Seems like she's going to sit here and do nothing, and I'm frankly not going to wait very long for this. All right. So we'll just start setting up without them, and hopefully, at some point, they will figure out what they're doing and start working with me here. Just making sure we have a little bit of background sound there. All right, so we got the ATHRs on, batteries on, crew supply is on. And, oh, she is actually doing stuff. Way too early. No European airport wants you to start the APU at this time. No way. No way. Alright, it seems like she figured it out in the end. Sorry, just gonna put my coffee down over here. Seems like she kind of figured it out, hopefully.
I'm out for the walk around.
Thank you. Okay. So while she's doing the walk around, we're going to do a few things in here. We're going to hop in the box and start off by just making sure we have swapped the databases. And we're going to start initializing our flight here. So SAS 501 today. SAS 501. And we are going from Copenhagen to Heathrow. And IRS initialization. Let's verify this against our flight plan here. All right, for a departure point, north 5537.1 by east 1239.4 east. That is all correct, so we can go ahead and align on that. GPS primary loss, that's a normal message at this point in time. And there is the IDG1 oil overheat message, so maybe we can... I don't think... No, we can't disconnect this while it's not running, so that message is going to appear until we can run it and disconnect it. That would have been done on the previous flight, but I can't simulate that, so we're just going to have to make do. Alright, so... in the meantime, let's get some takeoff numbers here. Nope, that's not, it's landing numbers, takeoff numbers. And do we actually have an ATIS is my next question. So, just looking quickly at the, oh my god, why is everything shrink till nothing size? Copenhagen here. And let's just see if there is an ATIS available. No real ATIS available. Okay, no surprise there. Winds 150 at 9. So probably the 22s is probably pretty reasonable. 22 right, I think, for departure. We landed on 22 left. I think they were departing 22 right last time. That makes sense. Let's just do one more search here. EKCH ATIS. Let's see if anywhere in the real world has EKCH live digital ATIS. ATIS Guru. This was on... oh, this is today. Yeah. Oh, look at this. We actually have an arrival ATIS, or a departure ATIS. So, departure ATIS Yankee, 1820 Zulu, runway use 22 right. 666, all parts 100% dry. It's 110 at 4, visibility 10 miles. Temperature 18, 2.15, and QNH 1020. QNH 1020 dialed in. All right, so 22 right it is. Okay, perfect. So there you go. I love it. All right, so 22 right. We're looking at a dry runway, it said. Optimal flaps. We don't need to force toga. We don't need the anti-ice today. Pack's going to be on. Sync load sheet, and then I'm going to go 64.2 because I always like to add a buffer. That way, if the final weight goes up, we still have valid numbers. Alright, so calculated. Looks like we can do a flaps 1 departure here. That all looks good. Perfect. Alright, and the other thing I'm going to do right now is just clear this message for the time being so we can see the IR align message, remove that status, and we'll circle back to that before we depart for sure. The other thing we need to do, of course, is get Fenix to start loading the airplane for us. So we've loaded the flight plan. Here comes all my passengers. And we're good to go. Alright, I thought you were out doing the walk around, but apparently you're just sitting here doing nothing. That's fine. Alright, we got 5 minutes until that IRS aligns. We can't really do too much until that happens. We could just make sure that a couple things are happening here. So again, just going to make sure I do have a live connection here. Yes, we are connected to MSFS. ESGG. I don't know if ESGG East Approach covers us where we are here. So let's just have a look at the map. And ESGG does not. It's it just covers. Is that it's Göteborg. So that does not cover us according to the VATSIM radar, so that does not help us. Yeah, otherwise we're just going to basically wait for these things to start happening. Enjoy some of these nice views. Why does nothing appear to be happening? I thought we said start boarding. Okay, yeah, stuff is happening. Here comes the fuel truck. That's the first thing that comes is the fuel truck, and then we also get catering as well. So the fact we're getting the fuel truck means that GSX is working, because GSX has also been problematic to me lately. I hate to be a big complainer, but it's just been, and it's not just been GSX, it seems like every time I start the sim, something is not working. I have to troubleshoot something for 5 or 10 minutes before I can actually, 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes 30 or 40 minutes, restart the sim twice before I can actually get things to function. So even the Fenix has given me a hiccup a couple times. GSX has been nothing but non-stop problems lately, and other things though too, not just GSX. GSX has been a big one, but my controls stopped working. My MCDU stops working. Like, just all sorts of different things don't work the way they're intended, and it can be a very frustrating hobby sometimes. Some days you just want to sit down and you just want to fly. You don't want to troubleshoot for 15 minutes before you get a chance to actually go flying. I mean, by the time you're done the troubleshooting, it's like, well, instead of actually flying, now I have to give up because all my time is gone. So it can be a very frustrating hobby like that. I'm hoping that today will not be that day, because it seems like everything has come together nicely and is working, and I'm hoping it's going to stay that way. We got 3 minutes till the IRS aligns, till we can really start doing stuff here. I can put a few things on there. I guess the other thing we could do is prep our charts for departure here today. Let's see. So departure today. I forget what chart we had here. I think these are all to right departures. Let's just check the flight plan here. The Lango to Charlie. So the rightmost one, that seems to make sense. Initial climb clearance, there it is. Good, it's in there. Some ATC places, they don't give you initial climb clearance. It's always ATC issued. And then when you don't have ATC online on VATSIM, it doesn't do much good. You just got to make something up. So, oh, that's right. We had to check the flight plan to make sure that we were filed at an appropriate altitude. So what do we file at? 38,000. No, we cannot do 38,000 today. So we're going to have to revise our flight plan again. Our maximum is 33.5, so we're going to have to file 32 for the westbound flight. Alright, so altitude 32,000, and we also need to increase the fuel burn to cover off our MEL. So it's about a 2-hour flight at 30,000 feet, an extra 54, so basically an extra 100 kilograms per hour. We'll call it, let's see here, MEL fuel in kilograms, we're going to call it, I'm just going to round it way up and say 200 kilograms of MEL fuel, and that should be more than enough. So this is going to increase our fuel burn quite a bit, being at a lower altitude and also having that extra APU fuel burn. So we may need to revise our fuel load here. So we can walk out to the fuelers, we can tell them dispatch just called us. We got a revised fuel load of 7,400 kilos. 7,400 kilos. The original plan called for 7,100, so we got an extra 300 kilos. It's actually surprisingly, the lower altitude is not imposing that much of a penalty. I'm imposing more of a penalty with the MEL than with that, which is surprising. I would have thought that the lower altitude, like from 38 down to 32, I would have thought that's a pretty substantial increase, but it's not. So we'll just have to make sure we actually get the correct revised fuel load, so we can go walk down to the fueler, tell him. Unfortunately, I can't, once I've loaded the flight plan, unless I reset everything, the loading and everything, I can't change the fuel. So what we'll do is, once the fueling's done, I'm just going to go in the box and really quickly change it as if we told the fueler about our amended fuel plan. Alright, it looks like everything came up there, so now we can actually get this started. Nav accuracy, upgrade, and GPS is primary, so we can go here and go here, go to the ATSU menu and initialize our flight. So quick init request, it should be Scandi 501, EKCH-EGLL. There it is, alternate is EGCC, 128 in the air, that's fine. And we can also go and get our secondary. We'll keep our fingers crossed for some ATC. I'm keeping one eye kind of over to my VATSIM map over here on the other screen. Nothing yet. Alright, so secondary EKCH-EGLL 542 miles. That sounds about right. Secondary flight plan uplink. So we can go ahead and activate that secondary. Important step is to take a sip of our coffee. And then we get the show on the road. Check takeoff data. Alright, so yeah, we are ready to get started here. Let's go ahead and we're just going to do the overhead flow here. So we're just going to lean ourselves back here, say no lights are on. ATHRs are in nav mode. Nothing is on. Basically, all the lights should be out. We got to turn on the recorder. Make sure it starts recording our prep. For some reason now, the CVR gets stuck. The CVR, when you press and hold the test button, it should, after a couple seconds, give a tone of a fixed length, depending on the model of CVR. Sometimes it's short, sometimes long, but it shouldn't just stay on. So I think there's a glitch. Phoenix did release an update last week, and it definitely it changed some stuff, and it was good in a way, but that's one thing that seems to have broken now. She already tested this anyways. APU fire, engine 2 fire. Alright, fueling is still in progress. We're going to leave the pumps off. We're going to leave them selected manual. If it's first flight of the day, we've got to check the electrical page. And we got to just check the battery. So when we put them back on, within 10 seconds, should be a 60 amp charging or less. And you can see they're pretty well charged because they went right to 7 amps. If it's more than 60 amps, they're not charging well enough. So after we start engine 1, I'm going to disconnect this IGG properly, but that gen switch should be off. No power's on, that's fine. These knobs should generally be more like over here. Nobody really likes it too warm in the airplane. Turn off pack 1 today, just for the ground ops. Alright, fueling still in progress. Don't need the lights there. Nice daytime flight. We don't really need interior lighting today. First flight of the day, we can do a compass check as well. And just make sure. It's nice to have weather radar too. The other day I flew this thing with weather radar, well, probably about a week or two ago, and it was so nice to have weather radar up. It made it just seem very realistic. I was actually trying to dodge the weather. There was actually a good amount of rain showers out there. I was trying to pick my way through the lightest of the rain, and it was effective. It doesn't terribly look really realistic because the weather engine is not terribly true to life in terms of how weather is distributed, but landing is auto, nothing on the status page. Those are on because I flew an airplane the other day and I didn't shut it down. I just did a test flight with 380 to see how it worked, and it seemed to work, so maybe one day I'll do a 380 flight on stream. Alright, so we got one FT2 altimeters, QNH 1020, QNH 1020, QNH 1020, indicating 100 feet, 100 feet, and 100 feet. And the heading is 263, no DDRMI. Compass says, yeah, about 263. 263, looks pretty good. We should be boarding passengers by now. Oh yeah, we are. For some reason it's really quiet. I don't know about you guys, but I find it is really quite quiet. So wow, that's a lot louder now. Maybe I'll take that down just one notch. I had the volume turned way down on this, didn't realize it. Alright, hopefully that volume is good. Let me know, guys, if you think it's too loud or too quiet, but otherwise, yeah, we're going to hop into the box here and get the show on the road. So starting with the info page, it's an A320-200 with the IAE V2527 engines. Database is current until the 1st of October. And a performance factor of, we're going to say 0 for today. Nothing to detune that I saw, so nothing's deselected. Initialization 4. And again, put this in, SAS 501. Going from Copenhagen down to London Heathrow, alternate is EGCC, which I think is Manchester, but I'm really not sure, so I'm not going to, don't quote me on that. Flight plan here, let's see here. Cost index of 5. Oh, actually, no, we got to reload this. And that, because that might also change the cost index here, so I'm just going to reload this here. Cost index still 5 at 320. That gives us a temperature of minus 46. Let's see what the deviation is here today. Oops. Sorry, guys. Deviation +2. So slash minus 44 is the actual temperature. There we go. And we can hop into this. So we're planning departure off runway 22 right. And it is the, start with an L. Lang 2 Charlie, is that correct? It sounds familiar. It was the Lengo 2 Charlie, yeah, so that's right. So Lang 2 Charlie, no transitions required. arriving in London Heathrow. And we'll have time to change this en route. So 27 right, Logan 2 Hotel. ILS 27 right. We're looking for the Logan 2 Hotel. There we go. And again, we'll take a closer look at that once we get going. Let's have a look here. Total distance is 544. I've got a ground distance of 547, so that's very reasonable. And let's just check the routing here as well. So Lango 2 Charlie to Lango, then direct Abnad L980 to Logan. So the Lango 2 Charlie to Lango, direct Abnad L980 to Logan, where we start the arrival into London. Alright, so that all looks good. RadNav auto-tune for departure is fine. Secondary, we're going to recopy the active, and then we're going to, after Lango, we're going to reroute ourselves back here. EKCH, just in case we have an emergency, we can land really quickly back here with very minimal reprogramming. So it's just a little risk mitigation strategy. No star at all, just an ILS 22 left. If it's an emergency, we're going to ask for vectors back or self-vector ourselves. Alright, so that's EKCH 22 left. Okay, so that's the secondary. It's pretty VMC, so I'm not going to worry about putting any minimums on there. We just want to be able to tune that ILS really quickly. Taxi fuel point 2, route reserve of 0. That's all very reasonable from our flight plan here. Alternate is looking like 1,300 with a final reserve of 1,000. So 1.3 for the alternate, and 1,000 for the final. ZFW. If I go over here, should be in here. So let's go ATSU, AOC, receive messages. That looks like prelim, and it looks like we got our finals here too. So 56.9, 33.6. 56.9, oops, 33.6. And just going to accept that. Fuel, looks like we're done. There's a 7.1, so we need 7.4 like I said. So what we'll do is we'll come over here and we'll go menu, config. Hey, Mr. Fueler, we actually got a revised flight plan. You can check with our dispatcher. I'm just going to round it up to 7,500. So that's how much is now loaded in the airplane. It's a little bit of a cheat, and I do like GSX and the way it works really nicely, but GSX does not handle revised fuel plans, not unsurprisingly. So we actually have 7.5 in the airplane, so that puts our takeoff weight at 64.2, which was, let's see here, 64.2, which is what I ended up actually doing it for. So that's very close, but I think that's okay. So we're going to send those numbers to the MCDU. Alright, in the meantime, the other thing we need is a wind component for just a quick integrity check here. So average wind component of -8. Not much wind, that's why we're doing such low cost indexes today. -8. What am I doing here? So 3.4, 127. And according to the flight plan, we should be 3.6, 128. We're very close. We're very close. And actually 200 extra kilos burned on the MEL fuel. But the MEL's not in there anyways. MEL's down here separately. So anyways, definitely in the right ballpark. 127. Yeah, very reasonable. So we'll go ahead and zero that out. We'll get the actual wins on request. Most of the time in real life you continue because it never happens this fast in real life. It usually takes time. But there it is. Blue, blue, and blue for climb, cruise, and descent phases of flight. That looks good. Perf page, runway 22 right, no shift, flaps 1, flex of 70, 151, 151, 152. 151, 151, 152, flaps 1, flex 70, and 1020, 1020, 1520 for the engine out acceleration transition of 5,000 on the way up. 1020, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 15, 10, that's within reason, 5,000. And for a noise 2 departure, we'll pre-select the green dot speed of 209. 209. This is another neat thing that I don't know if you noticed this, but the big Fenix update they did like a month ago fixed this. It used to be if you pre-selected a speed, it would then not show the managed speed anymore, and it would also show your pre-selected speed from climb as your cruise speed, which was not correct. Cruise is a separate phase of flight. The econ will reset. The managed will reset at the start of cruise if you don't put anything separately pre-selected on the cruise page. But yeah, this is something that was broken before, but has been fixed. I'm happy to see that's been fixed. So Fenix is always making their product better. They're finding the problems, the quirks, the little things that are not quite right, and fixing them. Flight level 320 is the planned cruise. Optimal's at 36, but because of our MEL, we're limited to 32. Max is up at 38.7. EKCH-EGLL. GPS primary nav access is high. RSP is auto. 528 miles to London Heathrow, and I'm pretty sure that's what the GC distance was, 529. So that seems like everything is adding up. Last but not least, the IRSs are all navving with a 0.5 bias. All right, quick look. We still have... Ooh, we have a tower online. So let's just do this. So we got ATIS for departure and arrival. So let's do this. Let's go and get the ATIS. And let's see here, ATIS. Be patient in Europe, you will get ATC. EKCH, departure, send. And then what we can also do is pre-departure clearance. I'm not sure if it works. A lot of European airports are using it, but I don't know for sure that all of them are. What gate are we at again? Charlie 33. Alright, so... Gotta go back to just see what ATIS we have here. There's our ATIS. Bravo. 1017 now. Bravo. Alright, so let's go and see if we can send this. And I don't know if it'll work or not. We'll send it quickly here. Through the Hoppy network. I don't know if it's going to work. All right, 1017 on the QNH. And let's see here. 118.105. So let's tune up 118.105 anyway so we can request our clearance the old-fashioned way, I guess. I feel like it probably won't come in, but maybe it will. I see it says company message. Let's see if it says anything here. Pre-departure clearance, that's just the acknowledgement. Request received, stand by. I feel like it's not going to happen, so. Copenhagen Tower, good afternoon. Scandinavian 501, Gate Charlie 33, A320, with information Bravo. Clearance to Heathrow.
Scandinavian 501, Castle Tower, good evening. Clear to Heathrow Lane, go to Charlie departure, runway 2 to right. And issue flight level 70, squawk 3445.
Scandinavian 501 is cleared to London Heathrow via the Lango 2 Charlie departure. Runway 22 right, initial climb level 7000, squawk 3445.
Scandinavian 501 confirm, flight level 70, squawk 3445.
A-firm, flight level 70, squawk 3445, Scandinavian 501.
Scandinavian 501, we back is correct.
And Castle Tower, Scandinavian 791, we are ready.
445, 7000.
Scandinavian 791, Roger, taxi holding point runway.
I might just flip him off just because, let's just turn him off because otherwise it's going to be really obnoxious really quickly here with lots of stuff going on. And I've still got to do the briefing. So, the clearance is in. We've got the squawk code. Fuel is now all boarded. We've got the correct amount with the revised flight plan. It's balanced. Nothing's in the center tank, so pumps are coming on. Center tank's not coming on because there's nothing in it, and the belts are on. load. We've got the final load numbers, and we'll probably start the APU now. Logbook we're going to say is checked. First flight of the day. Checks are complete. Why did that not stay on? All right. APU is starting. All right. So just a quick departure review here. Let's do it. See if we can do it this way here. So flight plan. I'll put this in plan mode so we can just follow along here and just follow along on the chart as well. If I can find the chart for the departure here. All right, so we have tower frequency till 1000, then contact Kastrup departure. CPTLC available above flight level 100. These include noise abatement procedures. Strict adherence. All right. Max 250 knots at or below flight level 70. Initial climb clearance flight level 70 or as requested lowered. Non-RNAV 1 equipped aircraft. It's not us. And let's see here. Okay, so Lango 2 Charlie track to Rubat, Tobis, and Lango. Rubat, Tobis, and Lango. And that's what I see in here. Rubat, Tobis, Lango. That's all in there, so that's good. It doesn't look like there's any altitude restrictions on the departure, which is good. And it does say check the 10-1 pop-up pages, so let's just have a quick look and make sure we know what's on the 10-1 pop-up page. 1 pop-up pages, noise abatement, preferential, runway restrictions. I think I read all this the other day. Nothing that's crazy in there. Lots of stuff about nighttime, taxi procedures, parking. Okay, so I believe we've got everything programmed in. So a quick briefing today. First of all, we do have the MEL today. We are going to have to do a procedure after start to make sure that everything is taken care of. Yeah. So we have to do a procedure after start to make sure everything's taken care of. And NOTAMs, again, I don't recall seeing anything terribly exciting, but let's have one quick look through here, make sure. Cranes, runways, guard lights, that's fine, doesn't really affect anything. SID, all live fire departure climb gradients, minimum 400 feet per nautical mile, up to 7,000 for ATC purposes. Unless the engine fails, we should have no problem meeting a 400 foot per nautical mile departure procedure in a 320. Okay, so the departure again for today is the Lango 2 Charlie departure on plate 10-3 Sierra for Copenhagen Kastrup. The routing constraints are all as published in the box, and again, 7,000 is our cleared flight level. 7,000 feet set. Roger, 7,000. Transition altitude is 5,000 on the way up. So we got to make sure we transition before we level at 7,000. Noise abatement is to follow the SID, and let's see here. It's not a mountainous airport. Level of service is not a concern today. It's pretty wide open, and the engine failure, we will just follow the SID as well. It should keep us safe. It's not too much high land in that direction anyways. MSA is 1,700 feet in that direction. All right, the performance in the box for the left seat departure off of runway 22 right, a dry runway, no takeoff shift, the full length, flaps 1 and flex of 70 degrees, V1 151, VR 151, V2 152. Standard transition altitude here is 5,000, and we've got a noise 2 departure here, 209. The green dot speed is pre-selected for the climb. It's going to be a managed departure. I've got climb blue nav blue, got the autopilot on shortly after departure since we are a single pilot, and I think that's about it. Are you ready for the departure briefing? Are you ready for the takeoff briefing? Are you ready for the departure briefing? All right. And then she would say no questions. Wow, really being glitchy today, and I'm just going to have to just go with it because I frankly don't want to wait it out too long here. All right, so we're not going to do single engine taxi with the generator offline. That's a bad idea. Just trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing here. We've got everything. We got the APU bleed on. Since they closed the external door, this door should be closed. And I think we're just about ready to go. Well, we are 3 minutes ahead of schedule. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to put the tower back up there because I'm going to need to talk to him now for the push. Alright, we got the beacon on, so that means that they should be retracting the bridge, getting the tug ready. Looks like all that stuff is happening.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Okay, just got to start make sure my flight tracker is going here. It actually, this will not start working actually until we start the pushback at the very least, so we'll make sure.
Departure check completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Cockpit preparation checklist. She's really not listening, and I don't know why. It worked the other day, not working today. Alright, so I'm going to read it to myself. Gear pins and covers are removed. Fuel quantity 7,500 kilograms. Seat belts are on. ADHRs are nav, and the barrel ref 1017 left and right. Cockpit preparation checklist complete before start checklist. Parking brake is set. Takeoff speeds and thrust. So we've got V1 151, VR 151, V2 152, flaps 1 and flexing 70 degrees.
After departure, switch to advisory 122.8.
Windows closed, and the beacon is on before start checklist is complete.
Clear for takeoff runway to the right, and after takeoff I will switch to Unicom. Bye-bye.
Castrop, Scandinavian 501, gate Charlie 33, ready, push and start.
Scandinavian 501, push as approved, QNH 1017.
1017, push back approved, Scandinavian 501. Alright, so we're going to do tail to the right.
Release parking brakes.
Alright, and here we go.
Commencing push. All engines clear.
Brakes
Start
are
at
off.
wheel.
Alright, start at will. I want to see the airplane start to move before we ever do that. And the other thing I want to see as well is I would just like to see, make sure it does look like it is tracking us in the right location here. Let's zoom in. Make sure it does kind of notice that we are moving here. It does look like it moved there. Yeah, it does see that we're moving, so that's good. Alright, so in which case we'll clear the gates. Starting engine 1. Alright, we are underway for another pilot's life leg on time. Nicely done. When you give yourself enough time, it's easy to be on time. The key is to give yourself a reasonable setup time. 45 minutes, especially with the talking I do. If you only do 30 minutes, it's not going to be enough. Although I was pretty happy the other night we turned the plane in 40 minutes, but everything was working to our advantage. We had a light load. We had flight plans that were issued before we departed the first flight, so that we were able to review them before we got to the turn. So we didn't even have to look at the flight plan when we got to the turn. We knew it was acceptable already. There was actually some mistakes that had to be fixed, but we'd fixed them, so it worked out quite well. It is possible, but to do it in much less than 40 minutes is frankly unlikely.
Copenhagen Tower, units 102, establish localizer runway 22 left.
Alright,
Gearings 102, cast tower.
so there's engine 1 started.
Winds are 14 degrees 8.
Starting engine 2.
Left, clear to land.
Runway 22 left, clear for landing with 102.
Remember from the flight deck, did you say something? I'm going to assume he probably said set the parking brake, but I didn't hear him because ATC was talking at the same time. So I'm going to put the parking brake on. Brakes are set, confirm the pins are moved. And we'll just take one quick look. It's a little bit hard to see here. But yes, he is walking over there to disconnect. So I think it is working. It's kind of a neat view though, isn't it? I like that view. That's really busy. But really good. Okay, sorry. Focus on what we're doing here. Looks like we got a good start on number 2. Alright, now that engine 1 is running, I can actually disconnect the IDG. Which should now bring up the disconnect message. That's what you want to see. That's what you're supposed to see. It would have happened in the last light, but obviously didn't really happen that way. Okay, revert to hand signals. Have a good day. Thank you. Alright, they're out of here. He's got the pin. Very good. Thank you. I see that. You can have yourself a good day. Alright. So before we do our after start procedures, we're just going to do our MEL procedure. So I'm going to pull this up on the other screen just because we have to kind of watch what's going on here. But here's what's going to happen. So after engine start, we have to do APU master on, both APU generator on, turn off both of the regular generators, the engine generators, make sure that the AC buses all stay powered when just the APU generator, then switch it, turn on the generator, turn off the APU, again, make sure that everything has power, then put the APU generator back on. So that's what we're going to do here. So the APU is on. APU generator is on. Generators 1 and 2 off. And on the electrical SD page, check to make sure that all the AC buses are running, which is fine. We'll disregard that for now. That was us. APU generator is supplying all the loads, all the buses successfully. So now we can put the operative generator back on and turn off the APU generator and that for some reason did not take when I flipped that back on. Now we're going to have all kinds of faults. Hopefully they clear themselves out fairly quickly, because that's what's supposed to happen. So we're going to put the APU generator back on. This is the way the configuration will be during flight, and what should happen if the generator 2 switch had stayed in when I pressed it there, that when the APU generator comes off, generator handles everything. Because it's all working, we put the APU generator back on for the redundancy. Alright. Now I think we got everything back. It doesn't look like it dropped everything. It looks like our flight plan still exists. GPS primary lost. We're going to have to wait for the GPSs to recapture the GPS signal before we get going here. Electric IDG1 oil overheat. We can disregard that now because it's disconnected. There's GPS primary, so that's good. Do things too quickly and stuff happens. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to untrigger this overheat because we have the IDG offline. The IDG has been successfully disconnected. We're going to remove that overheat message so it's not going to come back. Alright, now we're good to do the after start stuff here. So
Copy tower, top for ATC, traffic over there. Bye-bye.
Alright. Armed. Alright. After start checklist. This thing really does not want to work today. After start checklist. Alright, I'm going to read it myself. After start checklist, anti-ice is off. ECAM status is checked. Gen 1 is per the MEL. Pack 1 is just per the procedure. Center tank pumps are off. That's fine. Pitch trim.
Copenhagen Tower, influenza 2, VKT runway 22 left.
Eurings 102, welcome
Down
to
0.6,
Copenhagen. Taxi
and rudder
Alpha,
trim
14,
neutral.
taxiway Bravo,
After start
Charlie,
checklist is
and
complete.
Alpha, then
Before I call him for
cross
taxi, I'm
runway
going to make sure I
12.
have my
Taxi to send Alpha
taxi
14,
check up here.
Y Bravo, Charlie, Alpha Yankee, and the course runway 12, Eurings 102.
Scandinavian 501 ready for taxi.
Scandinavian 501, taxi to holding point runway 22 right by taxi Romeo and Bravo, cross runway 12.
Taxi Romeo and Bravo for holding point 22 right, cross 12, Scandinavian 501. I think we're on Romeo right now. Yes, we're on Romeo right now. Romeo, Bravo, crossing runway 12 for 22 right. Alright, so pretty much straight ahead. It's actually very easy here. Alright, clear left side. Clear right side. Brakes off. It's going to be very annoying without her helping. I have to do it all myself today. Why I even have her, I don't know. After start checklist. No, it really does not want to work today. Alright, so brake check. Pressure is 0. An incapacitated crew member today. Alright, so we'll get off this congested apron area before we bother trying to do the control check. It's not too congested, but it's tight enough. I did make an adjustment to my control scheme recently. As you guys might have remembered from the last 1 or 2 streams, the tiller axis was being really problematic. So what I've done now is on the on my thrustmaster side stick, there's a slider that has a Hall sensor in it. It's not a potentiometer. It's actually a slider, or it's actually a Hall sensor. And I'm starting to use that for the tiller. The only trouble with it is that it does not have a spring to center. It just simply stays wherever you put it, which is mostly okay, but I keep on having to look down and make sure that like I've actually zeroed out the tiller. It doesn't spring back to center, so it's a little frustrating, but it really overall it's not bad. Alright, we're going to taxi nice and slow just because we've got checks to do here. We do have to flight control check as well, but we also have to cross a runway, so we're really, this was perhaps not well thought out here. It's going to have to be really a quick little check over here in a second. Alright, so we're now taxiing Bravo. We're going to cross runway 12. And basically where that aircraft is, I think, is where we need to be. So Bravo, cross runway 12, clear left, clear right. It's definitely at least smoother. It's not necessarily centering the tiller every time. I have to center it either by looking down or just by sort of looking outside and seeing that we are kind of moving in a straight line. But at least I'm not constantly fighting to try and get it back onto a straight line. I would like a nice tiller. That would be a nice addition. But yeah, I've been spending enough money lately on stupid things that are unexpected and I'm not expecting to spend money on. So I'm really kind of not in a place where I can spend money on stuff. All right, let's do a flight control check. Alright, so we got full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, neutral, and rudder, full left, full right, neutral. And the first officer would do the same thing.
Scandinavian 501, after departure, switch to advisory frequency 122.8, wind 14 degrees, 8 knots, runway 22, right, you're clear for takeoff.
Alright, after departure, Unicom on 122.8, 22 right, clear for takeoff, Scandinavian 501, thank you. Okay, so we're clear for takeoff. Still got to finish this checklist here. Alright, so first of all, taxi checklist. Flight controls are checked. Flaps config 1 plus F, config 1 plus F. Radar predictive wind shear are on and auto. Engine mode selector is normal, and the takeoff memo thought I pressed it, but maybe not. There it is. Takeoff, no blue. No blue. Alright, lineup checks. Takeoff runway. We'll need to confirm 22 right. TCAS is TARA, and the packs are both going on. AP generator staying on for this flight today. Clear left side. Clear right side. This airplane really wants to go here. Let's get the lights all on. Gonna try it one last time.
Takeoff runway confirmed. Approach path clear of traffic. Cabin crew be seated for takeoff.
Lineup checklist. Lineup checklist. Lineup checklist.
Takeoff runway.
22 right confirmed.
Checked. TCAS.
TARA.
Packs 1 and 2.
On.
Lineup checklist completed.
It's just going to work. Alright, here we go. Manflex 70, SRS runway, auto thrust blue. Takeoff.
Check.
Mantoga. Manflex 70, SRS runway, auto thrust blue.
Thrust set 100 knots.
Roger.
B1, rotate. Positive climb.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Nav. Autopilot 1, climb, alt blue. Thrust climb, auto thrust. Cast trips, get an even 501, switch to Unicom. Thank you very much for the service. Have a good night.
Geared out.
Bye-bye.
Alright. Somehow I missed getting the transponder on, but there it is. It's on now. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Flap 0.
Speed checked. Flap 0.
I kind of wasn't expecting her to work, and now she suddenly works. She's really catching me off guard here. now she's finally listening to everything I say.
Radar altimeter alive.
All right. So we're airborne. We're in the climb to flight level 70. We are on course. There's no reason not to. We've reached the 3,000 feet. We'll manage the speed. And we'll set our cruise altitude to flight level 320 because there's no further ATC. We did switch to Unicom. But there we go. We got airborne. Not bad, not bad. And we finally got our... what am I trying to say here? Our FO working finally. For some reason, she had fast forwarded into the after start procedure and seemed to be stuck there. Would not go back to the earlier stuff, but seemed to be waiting for me to catch up to her, it seemed, which was a little odd. But anyways, she forgot to disarm the spoilers, but that's okay. We got that all done now. Seems like she's not doing all the actions she's supposed to do, but anyways, at least she's doing some of the response. At least she called my V1 and rotate. That was nice of her. All right, and there is the transition altitude. Standard. Alright, standard is set and cross-checked, and away we go. Alright, so we got an on-time departure, which I'm really happy about. Let's see if we can get an on-time arrival. Let's see, what are we showing for an arrival time here? 15:59, and we're supposed to be at the gate at 16:30, I think. So we are actually showing quite early here for our flight today over to Heathrow, which is great. I love it. I love it. I'm just going to have a quick look over here, see if we have ATC online in London yet. And well, there's a ground controller on Heathrow, so as the afternoon wears on, I have no doubt that we're probably going to get at least a tower, if not a director, maybe even a center controller. I'm expecting we're going to get something. So let's see here. TAD plus 14 is fine. We could accelerate now, or we'll just wait till the 10,000. I'm not going to worry too much about it. It'll accelerate when it's good and ready. And we are underway. Alright, there we go. 10,000 climbing flight level 320. We're going to go ahead and go lights off. Seatbelts off. Looks like a nice afternoon. The generator's offline, which is why the APU's online. That's all good. We can go to the airport page. There are no further constraints on this departure. Let's see here. RadNav, we have nothing to detune. Secondary, now that we've departed successfully, we'll recopy this. We have time now to reprogram it before we turn around and go back. And again, still the optimals at 36, the max 38.9. We're just climbing to 32. So it's a very reasonable altitude, a very reasonable flight level. Very much within the reach of the aircraft today. I'm just going to turn her I find that, like, otherwise this causes a conflict. It prioritizes whatever you've done last, so we're just going to turn that off altogether. We got guard up on number 2. The cabin is definitely pressurized into 3.1 psi. APU available is the normal expected message at this point in time, and a fuel check here. So we burned 750 kilos through the engines. That adds up to about 7450-ish, which is within reason, so we're not leaking any fuel. And we are underway on our way to London Heathrow. Everybody, welcome back to the airwaves. It's nice to be up. It's nice to be flying. Yeah, you know what happened there? Son of a bugger. Alright, so we could disregard that because that was a glitch caused by the fact that I extended the flaps because she wasn't doing it, but then she retracted the flaps in the sim, but not on my hardware. So that was stupid. That was a stupid thing, so the flap lever on my hardware, suddenly it realized it was still flaps 1 and moved the flaps to flaps 1. Anyways, just going to disregard that because it really didn't happen, or it shouldn't have happened anyways because I didn't command the lever to be moved. Anyways, there's always like a little bit of suspension of disbelief. Like this simulation, the depth and the level of the simulation is so good, but there's always, it's never quite there. But it's one of those things that I do say to anybody. I say it to anybody that listens, but I say it to people who, especially people who are newer and less experienced in the industry, that yes, when you go into a simulator, and what I'm not talking about Microsoft Flight Simulator, I'm talking about like a level D simulator that an airline runs. Aiden UK, good morning. When you go into a level D simulator, like it's never perfect. It's never perfect. They can be very good, and certainly the whole environment is well replicated, but then you know outside it's not a real world. You can tell it's screens. Yes, it's a pretty good approximation of the real world out there, but you know that outside it's not the real thing. You know that it's still just a two-dimensional flat image projected on a screen. Your brain knows that. Likewise, you know that you're not really quite in the airplane because the simulator is a little bit weird. It's got this whole flight deck. Everything from basically the back of the seat forward is pretty much true to the airplane. Sometimes little glitches like they may not have the proper charging ports and cables and things like that. But then behind that, there's an instructor sitting there watching you with his own little computer that is programming the sim. If you keep your eyes forward, you can forget that the instructor's back there. But I 100% believe you get out of those simulators what you put into them. If you want to go and play the sim game and just be like, I know what they want to see, I know what the exercises are, I know all the numbers I have to hit, and play that game, you'll probably pass the sim ride, but you probably will not educate yourself. What I find is that like you just have to commit to the simulation as a pilot and say, I know it's a simulator, but I want to react as the real world. I want to treat everything as a real world situation, and I want to make all the appropriate steps, follow the appropriate steps, practice following those steps. It's very easy to fall into that sim trap and say, oh, it's just a sim, I don't really actually have to perform, I'll just do all the steps, you know, and not really commit to it. But you're really just selling yourself short when you do that as a pilot. Yes, you'll pass the ride. Yes, you won't necessarily be, you know, you won't have to retake the ride or anything like that. But will you have really truly learned anything that you can apply to the real world when push comes to shove? So there are tons of guys out there that you know, whenever a script is published, whenever they redo the scripts every year, within the first like month or so, everyone's gone and mark down all the new things. These are the things on the scripts, these are the gotchas, these are the things they're looking for, and there's this usually a sheet, nowadays it's digital, that's circulating within like a month of the sim scripts being changed, and everybody can go and download it and read exactly what the scripts are going to be, what to expect when, and just practice to that. And I used to do that. I will admit, I used to do that. I used to be really nervous about passing the ride. You know, your job is on the line. You know, you want to pass the ride, because if you don't pass the ride, you know, your job could be on the line. So I understand the anxiety that causes, and I understand why, especially newer people want to have that leg up. And there's nothing, to me, that there is something smart about wanting that leg up. You know that there's a challenge, and you want to have all the information going into it as much as possible. And there's something about, and pilots are those kind of people, that they want the information. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to make plans and be able to do the best thing I can in every situation. And I understand that, but I agree 100%. Hayden UK said defeats the object. If you go in there just knowing just what the script is and only learn the script, you won't learn anything else outside the script. Sometimes just because they give you a list of these are some things that could be covered, study these topics, you know, there might be a series of weak topics. Not everything will happen in the sim, but be ready for all of them. You're much better off doing that. You're much better off making decisions on the spot instead of pre-planning every possible decision, because you can't pre-plan every possible decision. And there's a joke that you know, there's a running joke in the business that there was a airline in Japan that was known for everybody had the scripts and everybody knew what was going to happen in the sim, and you just went through all the paces. And the joke was, the one day the instructor saw that the student knew the script really well, and then so he failed the other engine. He's supposed to fail the left engine and failed the right engine instead, and the student literally turned around and said, "You failed the wrong engine," which is hilarious as a joke, but I think it speaks volumes to, like, are you really learning anything at that point? So I used to do that. I will admit I used to do that. I used to look for those legs up. Hey, have you been in the sim recently? What were some of the things you remember? What were the tricks? You know, if somebody had the sheet, I'd be like, sure, yeah, I'll read that. I want to see what's coming. I do not do that anymore. I've done a 180-degree turn on that. I do not want to see what's coming ahead of time. I want to be surprised, because if I'm surprised when it happens in the simulator, then I learn more. I learn more about how I react in an unexpected situation. I learn more about dealing with these things. The emotions, yes, it may be tougher, but learning to manage that emotional response is so much more important once you've kind of become comfortable with the airplane. The first couple times you do a ride on an airplane, yes, you're still learning the airplane, you're still getting comfortable with the airplane, but once you're comfortable with the airplane, reasonably comfortable with an airplane, now it comes time to really learn how you are going to deal with things as a human being, as a pilot. And that is worth so much more than the formal sim training. Yes, I really do like the sim training. The last time I went in the sim was less than a month ago. We did emergency descents, and I love doing the emergency descents because it's something you will almost never do in real life. But if you ever need to in real life, you need to know that you can do that thing cold without thinking about it, because it is, if there's one emergency procedure next to the V1 cut that you need to have committed to memory and be able to pull it off effectively in order to save your life, it's an emergency descent. It's put on that oxygen mask. Do you know how to put on that oxygen mask? You know how to put on that oxygen mask without even looking at it. and I've taken myself now, every time we go flying, it's actually one of the emergency briefings that is mandated for us, along with the rejected takeoff, the V1 cut. Every single time we go flying with a new crew member, we have to run through the memorandums for the emergency descent as well. And every time we do that now, when I'm sitting in the airplane, I actually reach back. I take my hand and I reach back and I grab. I don't actually pull it out, but I put my fingers on the oxygen mask, ready to grab it and pull it out. I grab the, if I open this up here, the two tabs here, the little red tabs there that are how you actually grab the oxygen mask and pull it out of there. I reach back without looking, and I just put my fingers on those two red tabs. So without even looking, I know in this airplane where that emergency oxygen mask is, and I can grab it and pull it out without even having to. If it was a smoke-filled flight deck, I could pull it out and put it on without even having to see it. And these are the kind of things you kind of need to practice and be 100% comfortable at. But I think I have to say that I think the training is working pretty well, because I did have something happened this week actually, and it was pretty minor at the end of the day, but it had the potential for a few moments anyways. It certainly got the blood pumping, and it I was pretty happy with the way the whole situation unfolded, the way it was handled. So it was actually a very short flight, 40-minute flight, which is pretty short. That's barely enough time to start briefing and deal with all the stuff in the cruise phase. Basically, on a 40-minute flight, there is almost no cruise phase. The cruise phase is usually 3 to 5 minutes on a 40-minute flight. So you really can't set up and brief the arrival on that. You have to kind of do it in the climb out. So we know about this. This is a common problem with this flight. It's a short flight. It's a short flight. It's 200 miles. It takes 40 minutes. I think it took us 42 minutes that day. There's not really any extra time. 310 climbing 320. And sure enough, right after the takeoff inhibit ends, so all the cautions are inhibited from 80 knots until you get to 1,500 feet on the takeoff, so that you don't get distracted by non-essential tasks. If a fire happens or an engine failure happens, that'll come up, but anything non-urgent will not come up until you hit 1,500 feet. There's Mach Alt-Star. When we hit the 1,500 feet, we got the ECAM. We got a caution light, and I look down, and there is an indication that the let's see here if I can simulate it here, just for the sake of argument. So at 1,500 feet, this happened, which is not bad at 1,500 feet. It's more of a little bit of surprise than anything else, but I was very happy with just the demeanor I immediately took. I looked down and said, oh, this could be either a really bad day, but it doesn't sound like it, because if that door really actually opened, you would probably know it without looking down there. You'd probably have felt a pressurization bump. You'd probably hear some noise. You'd probably get a frantic call from the back before you even get that ECAM going. So even though that came up, I almost immediately evaluated it as 90% certain it's false without even having to investigate further, just because nothing else went with it. And that's what the ECAM says. If at normal cabin vertical speed, so right now the vertical speed is 0, but if the vertical speed was climbing at 5,000 feet per minute, you know that door is actually open. If it's not climbing, if it's stable, if it's steady, you know it's probably not open. So this is one of those cases where, though, like, and literally 3 days before, we were sitting in ground school, and I was doing my annual recurrent ground school training, and we literally went through that and said, you know, what do you do when something unexpected happens? And let's make up a list of the things you try to do, and you know, and try and come up with some kind of an acronym to cover those, just to sort of have a memory tool for people. I find I don't need the memory tool. I find my natural decision-making, evaluating process tends to work very well anyways. But some people it helps them to have a tool, and that's fine. So anyways, we came up with an acronym, but I think it's funny that, like, literally 3 days before this happened, we had come up with a list of, like, what are the important things? And the most important thing, fly the airplane. regardless of what that says, the number one most important thing is fly the airplane, look down at the FMA, mock all cruise nav, see what it says, make sure the autopilot's still on, the auto thrust is still on, see what you still have, make sure the airplane is still flying where you need it to go, and then you call for ECAM actions. And then I had the FO do the ECAM actions. He basically looked at it, said, yeah, it's pretty normal pressurization. I agreed. I'm like, yeah, I think it's pretty normal too. I don't think the door is actually open. I think it's a sensor issue, which happens. The sensors are extremely sensitive, and they are designed that way. Most of the time when they go off, it's because the sensor is shifted very slightly out of alignment. It's almost never because the door is open. And the idea is that we want that to be the failure. We want that to be the first thing to fail. We'd rather have the sensor go off more times in a false capacity than not have it go off when the door is potentially coming open. So they are very sensitive. It is possible for them to get out of alignment. It happens from time to time. In this case, I asked the cabin crew if they saw anything unusual in the cabin, and said no. It's like, why? And so then I explained why. I fished for the information first just to see if they had observed anything, and then I told them what the situation was and asked them if they had anything to corroborate that. They said, no, everything appears normal in the cabin. There's no breeze. There's no stuff blowing around the cabin. Obviously, the door is not open. So we were able to have a discussion with maintenance. We continued our flight. Nothing happened in the end. But I have to say that I was very happy with, just as a self-evaluation, and there were mistakes made. There were a few mistakes we made. And I look back and say, okay, they were very minor things. They're procedural type mistakes. The one thing we did was I asked the FO to call ATC when, in fact, he was still running the ECAM, and that's not correct. If someone's doing the ECAM, then the other person is flying the airplane and handling ATC. So I made a mistake there. But I was very happy with the overall flow of the situation. I was very happy with just like the very calm demeanor I maintained the whole time. It's like, okay, we're just going to deal with this. We're going to talk about it. Yes, there's a lot of stuff happening. Yes, we have a very short flight. We don't have very long to prep for arrival anyways. Let's prioritize what's important. Get the important things done first. Everything else, we'll get to it when we have the time. So I was happy with the overall conduct of the flight. I was very happy with the way the situation was handled. Of course, it didn't turn into anything, but when I got home that night and I was sort of writing some reports about it, I just was going through my head, and I just wanted to say, like, I was very happy about the way the whole thing was handled. Like, I think I've done enough sim training now that the startle factor's gone. And not to say that the red lights definitely get you going, but anything that comes up with a yellow light, it's almost like a non-event in my mind. It just like, okay, hold on, right? Is the airplane still flying? Okay, yep, okay, what's the situation? What have we got to deal with? And you just deal with it. You don't have to get into a panic. You don't have to get into a fluster, and just follow your procedures, and it works quite well. I was very happy with the way the whole thing worked out, and the crew was extremely. The FO was very helpful. I gave them control of the airplane, and while I was talking to the cabin crew, I told them just keep flying. I'll deal with the situation. Doesn't look like it's a serious situation. We just got to evaluate, make sure everybody's happy with the course of action we're choosing as well. So we got our dispatcher on the phone, got maintenance control on the phone, made sure everybody else was happy. Just there's a lot of stuff that had to be done, but I was very happy that we were able to follow the steps to get everything done in a very reasonable amount of time, and we were still ready for the arrival. And then the funny thing, I could probably kill that now, but the funny thing that happened when then after all that, and I'm thinking this is just about the most hectic 40-minute flight I've ever been on. And it felt just like a sim session. They use this 40-minute flight all the time for the sim sessions because it's such a short flight. It fits into sim sessions nicely, and they can still make stuff happen. And it happens all the time, especially in the initial training. This is one of the most common flights you do, and stuff always happens. But I feel like that door situation was probably something that did happen. It probably got pulled up at some point. As it's not a big deal. It's something. It might be something. You need to deal with it. You need to have a process, and you need to be ready to manage the remainder of the flight with an abnormality. So you've got more tasks than you would normally have to do. But then after all this and having this extremely hectic 40-minute flight, we're on final, and then the two airplanes ahead of us are instructed to do go-arounds because there's debris on the runway. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, the last thing we need at this point is a go-around. We've just worked our brains silly trying to get this all done in this nick of time, and then here we go do a go-around. We actually ended up landing on we didn't end up having to go around. The inspection vehicle managed to find whatever it was and pull it off the runway before we got there, so it was fine. But I was just thinking what a perfect ending that would have been to this really, really hectic after really hectic afternoon of work here. Anyways, yeah. What else could we talk about? Anyways, that was my little rant about the sim, and I'd much rather learn from the sim by not knowing stuff going in, and that's why I really love when we do the L.O.F.T sessions in the sim as well. The L.O.F.T sessions are the line-oriented flight training, so usually we alternate every sim session. We go in. One is like the recurrent training where you have to do all the normal training stuff, and you have to go and get evaluated and do the V1 cut and rejected takeoff and ILS down to minimums and all that kind of stuff. Everything that's on this checklist. And then the other sim session that we alternate with is what's called the L.O.F.T training, which is line-oriented flight training, and it's basically a scenario that happens. So instead of having a whole bunch of checklists of these are the items you have to cover, we got to do all of them. You know the engine's going to fail on one of these takeoffs. You know one of them's going to be a normal takeoff. You know one's going to be a rejected takeoff. And you know what's coming because it's a list of stuff that's mandated by the regulator. The other ones are just scenarios that are often grabbed from the line, grabbed from areas that have been observed to be weak areas of knowledge, that sort of thing. And you just fly a line flight from sitting down, powering up the airplane until completion. And there's no repositioning the sim, there's no pausing or freezing the sim. Whatever happens in real time. And it's usually not like nearly the dire situations, because the whole point of the L.O.F.T is, yeah, show some interesting situations, but also show how you work as a crew. How do you work as a crew member, potentially with somebody you've never met before who's sitting next to you? How do you guys deal with that situation? How do you marshal your resources? How do you make time, monitor the time situation, make sure you've got enough time? And so the one we had a little while ago, it was funny, was you did a flight from Montreal to New York, and nothing happened on this flight at all. It was a 100% normal flight for like a whole hour. You did 30 minutes of prep work, you go, you take off, you do like this hour flight, you go up, you go in cruise, you go down, you're setting up for the approach in LaGuardia, and you're just sitting there, you're looking at the other guy, you're like, what's going on? Like, why is everything perfect? It doesn't happen this way. It's not supposed to be perfect. Why is nothing happening? Something's got to fail. Something's got to go wrong, and it isn't until you finally turn final and then you start deploying the flaps. The instructor asks you to keep going fast until you're almost there. Then you start deploying the flaps, and then the flaps freeze at 0. But you don't find out until you get there. Now you've used up most of the fuel for your flight. You've got your alternate fuel, but you've got your alternate fuel. You got a few other things, but you don't have a lot of time because you're at the end of your flight. You've used up most of the fuel you planned with your flight. But it's funny, like just how primed we were for something to happen. We're just sitting there on the edge of our seat, like, oh, something's got to happen. This is a L.O.F.T session. Something has to malfunction so that we can get evaluated on it. And I had an instructor talk about that session and said when he first introduced line-oriented flight training sessions, L.O.F.T sessions at his airline, he pushed really hard to have one sim script out of like the 6 or 8 scripts they have to choose from, to have one script where nothing happened. Nothing at all happened. The whole script. Just because it would get people so worked up, you'd be ready to see the slightest thing and see something go wrong, and the slightest little mistake or the slightest little error, or the slightest little glitch, and call that a mistake, call that a situation that you have to deal with. Because sometimes nothing goes wrong, and you need to be ready for that. And I thought it was a little bit evil in a way, but it absolutely makes sense. If you know something's going to happen, you're waiting for something's going to happen. If there's a chance nothing could happen, then you might just lean back a little bit more and be like, yeah, I think it's fine. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be a great day. And then something does happen. So I understand the evil side of that, and I kind of like it. I kind of think it's a smart idea because it really does then put people off their guard. On most normal days, nothing happens, but every once in a while, something does happen. So there's a chance nothing could happen, and that way you're ready for it too. Because we were so primed on that when that flap finally failed. You're like, oh, okay, thank you. Now I understand what we're waiting for. We had to go to the whole flight, get down here, and now. You're your own worst enemy sometimes in these situations. So I absolutely adore L.O.F.T training because I think you learn so much more from it than from the... You need to do the basic training to learn all the procedures and see everything at least once. But once you get out there, start flying the line, L.O.F.T training is so much more beneficial. You get so much more bang for your training dollar. putting people in the simulator and letting them fly a realistic flight together with another crew member. And how do you guys work together? You've probably never met before. How do you work together? How do you work as a crew? How do you react to an abnormal situation? And again, the abnormals, it's all about the reaction. You know, when a red light goes off, do you suddenly like, oh my god, and panic and do anything you can to sort of resolve the situation? Or do you lean back and say, okay, something serious is happening, gonna make sure the airplane's flying. What is the serious situation? Let's deal with it. And learn to overcome that startle. That startle is such a powerful human reflex. It's something, it's natural, it's instinct. If something shocking suddenly happens, immediately adrenaline starts pumping. You know, reaction times suddenly become quicker. You suddenly start making a lot of quick snap decisions, because in the past, when human beings were being hunted by apex predators in, you know, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 years ago, these strategies kept people alive. And in many cases, they still do. But sometimes you just need that moment to evaluate, especially in an airplane. In a complex flying machine, you can make a situation worse rather than better if you react without thinking. Looks like there is a Stansted arrival controller. That doesn't help me at all. Stansted arrival controller. No, that doesn't help at all. Nate watching Twitch. I like the co-pilot mod. Far too much to do as a single pilot. Yes, sorry, I missed that comment. I was having my own comments there. But yes, Nate watching Twitch, you're absolutely right. This is probably one of the biggest downfalls of flight simulation and these ultra-realistic simulations like Fenix, like PMDG, where they are 100% realistic simulation. If you go read the flight crew operations manual for any of these aircraft, it says it right in the limitations section. It says minimum crew, 2, not 1, 2 pilots. It takes 2 pilots to fly this airplane. So the audacity we have as simulators to think that we can fly these airplanes single pilot is just, it's ridiculous sometimes. And it's not audacity, I think, on our part. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's also just, obviously there are huge technological limitations. It's shared flight deck has been done in the past where you can fly with a buddy. It's been done in the past, but especially when you get into these high-level complex simulations, this simulation is so complicated. The amount of data you would have to throw back and forth across the network to be able to fly this flight with a buddy. I understand like the technological limitations and why nobody wants to do it, but it's a pity at the same time, because some of the best times I've had are flying around doing shared flight deck with some of my buddies. The Q400, I think we did it in the Q400 a few times. We definitely did it in the Aerosoft A320 in P3D. We did that a bunch of times, and that was so much fun. One person's actually flying the airplane, the other person's doing flaps, gears, radios, doing all the rest of the stuff. Together as a team, you get stuff done. The idea of trying to do this all by yourselves, it's very tough. So this whole voice-activated first officer thing it's fantastic when it works. Lately, it's been a little bit of a bear trying to get it to work, and I read that there was an update. Now, they sent an email out, I think last week, that said that they had updated FS2 crew and they were using a new voice detection software algorithm, something. I can't remember exactly what I read, but it does not seem to work very well. Maybe that's just my experience. Maybe I need to train it more. But yeah, but this one seemed to get stuck at a certain point. She seems to be fine now, but she seemed to get stuck at a certain point. I don't know what to think sometimes. I really wish I did know what to think, but I don't know what to think about this. I find myself not using it very much. The other problem with this is that FS2 crew very much follows the Airbus SOP, which is fine, but the airline I work for does not. They have a very modified version of the Airbus SOP. So trying to fly the Airbus SOP, to me, is very confusing, because my brain is trained to operate the aircraft in a certain way, and that's not how FS2 crew operates it. So I think what FS2 crew, I think they did the smart thing by trying to follow the Airbus SOP as much as possible. I think that is very reasonable, but for me it doesn't work because my airline does not follow the SOP, the Airbus SOP very well. So I do like it though, and when it works, it's great, and especially for the high workload situations, the takeoff and the landing, it really is when it really shines. When you can just when you can call the FMA, and then the FO calls 100 knots. They call V1 rotate, without you having to look down. Okay, perfect. Pull back. Positive rate. Okay, thank you. Please put the gear up. And then you reach accelerate. You ask them to retract the flaps. It feels normal. It's a lot less workload. I've learned how to fly the simulator single pilot and put my own gear and flaps up, and it's possible. But I also like to hand fly. I also think hand flying is a great skill. But if you have to look down to put the flaps up, put the gear up, it's better to have the autopilot on in that case. And then in which case now I'm just flying with the autopilot all the time. That's some stuff showing up on the weather radar over there. So it has its limitations, but it definitely can improve the immersion a lot. It's not a perfect situation, but it can definitely improve the immersion a lot. All right, I can see our equal time point is already coming up. My God, how fast this flight has gone. What else did I want to talk about here? The only other thing really that came up that the last little while that I can think of that really is important here is just the fact that Fenix did release another update last week, and I've only had a chance to test it twice since then, but it does seem to work. And the big thing that they updated, that was reported in the update, the central feature of this update was improved auto thrust characteristics in the 320 family. And like I have to say, like right now it's looking very smooth. I did think that prior to this update, I did think that the thrust was very surgy. It would definitely go up and down and up and down, and that's not what it's supposed to do, especially when you're in alt cruise. The whole idea of alt cruise is it's a soft hold, which means that it doesn't immediately respond to every last little variation, every last little bump in the atmosphere, every little wind shift. The idea is keep the thrust lever. My power just flicked off for a second there. I don't know if you saw that there, but the lights kind of went dark for a second there. Hopefully I don't suddenly fall off stream, everybody. As long as I'm still connected to the internet. Yeah, we're all good? Okay. Still sending out data? Good. If I fall off the internet, I'm sorry. Looks like my power is in my house a little bit. Happened the other day. I was just playing a game. It was no big deal, but like, halfway between autosaves, all of a sudden, computer goes off for just like a second, just enough for it to reboot. And like, oh, the game's gone now. Here comes some traffic the other way. But yeah, so the idea of the soft hold is like you're not constantly engines accelerating, decelerating, because that's inefficient. It's more efficient to keep the engines at a constant power setting and let the speed fluctuate slightly within certain limits. And so the Airbus doesn't say specifically what the limits are. It looks like it's usually about plus or minus 5 to 10 knots. And also the altitude does the same thing. Rather than constantly pitching up and down and constantly moving the elevators to try and keep altitude, it will try and sort of just set something that it thinks will hold it and let it drift a little bit. And you can see it's drifting right now. We're now at about 40 feet high and a little bit fast. At some point soon, the power, it's going to pitch down and bring the power back a little bit, and we're going to go down a little bit. So it definitely seems like in cruise it's a lot more realistic. I'm curious to see what it looks like on approach as well, but that was a big thing, was they completely rejigged the auto thrust. It does look like it's working a little better now. I will say, like, I was having complaints with the thrust system before. Now I was screwing around with it before my sim session and doing engine outs and relights, and the relights were a little bit effed up. I don't know. I haven't done a real engine relight in the airplane, so I don't know for sure. But like, you would have it at idle, and then you try to put it back, and it would never accelerate. But or it would the engine would start, and then it would immediately accelerate to like 70 or 80% thrust, and then come back to 20% thrust, even though the thrust lever is at idle. So there were some weird acceleration issues with the engine restart in flight. I don't know if that's going to hold. It seems like it's definitely smoother. It's not varying very much. We're still about 40 feet high. We're just a little bit on the fast side, and it's happy to just sort of sit there. If it gets a little bit too much too high or too fast, it'll cut the power and pitch down a little bit and try and find an attitude and a power setting that will hold speed and altitude, but it won't vary them constantly. It'll try to just let it sit for a little while and vary a little bit, just to save fuel. If it's constantly accelerating and decelerating the engine, it's going to use more gas, than just keeping it at a constant power setting and letting the speed fluctuate slightly. So, a few minor glitches, but it seems like this product is still improving at all times, and I'm kind of looking forward to the Neo. XLRs are coming soon, and I'm looking forward to trying to fly the XLR with the new stuff. Fly some awfully old 320s, and I'm looking forward one day to having a fleet of new airplanes that's consistent as well, because our fleet is very inconsistent as well. Anywho, let's see here. So we have a little less than an hour to go here now. We are showing a touchdown time of 16:02, so it's probably a good time to start setting up. So let's see if we can get an arrival ATIS here for London Heathrow. And I do not have any fancy scenery in London Heathrow. I just have the default scenery. As much as I kind of was interested in the INI builds, London Heathrow, again, it's another... London is one of those ones that's also really hard on frame rates most of the time. Last thing I need is a reason to make it even harder. Alright, this is London Information Echo 1450 Zulu, so that's pretty recent. Arrivals 27 left, departures 27 right, transition level 7000. Data link clearances are available. Surface winds 200 at 10, varying 160 around 240. Visibility 10 kilometers or more, fuel 4400. CVs, few 2000. Temperature 20, 2.9. QNH 1014. Alright, so I'm just gonna set 1014 here. Alright. So 27 left.
1013 set passing 32,000.
Thank you. Alright, so we're gonna make sure we're set up for an ILS to 27 left here in Heathrow, since they're landing 27 left. So that's what we're gonna do first. ILS 27 left. Still the Logan 2 Hotel and approach VIAs. And I've got to figure out what the approach VIA is for the Logan 2 Hotel. So it looks like it ends at Lamburn, Lima Alpha Bike, so that should be an appropriate transition. We can insert that. And let's check this out and make sure that we've got everything. So the transition level on the way down 7,000. So we're going to double check that. So what I need is probably this view here. Plan. Alright. And what I'm going to do is, I think we're joining the Longo 2 Hotel at Longo, or at Logan 2 Hotel at Logan, I believe. I'm going to have to slide this over to the other screen just so I can kind of click this in the box here. Yeah, we're just going straight to Logan. Actually, no, I could do this because I have my box here. So I'm just going to cycle through the waypoints here. So Logan 2 Hotel should be at flight level 250. There it is. Then we go to Sabre at 16,000. Brasso. Weasel at max 250 knots. And then Lamburn at 220 knots at 7,000 feet. Do not proceed beyond the Lamburn VOR without an ATC clearance, so we'll be ready for a hold there. We cross Weasel and we haven't proceed further clearance. And standard routes may be varied by ATC. Aircraft may be instructed direct to waypoint following radar vectoring. Load to hotel. 16,000, yeah, that's all in there. Actual descent clearance will be as issued by ATC, that's just for planning purposes, and then there is a transition. So, ILS 27 left. And then, is it under stars? Maybe it's under stars. Initial approach from Lamburn, that's what I'm looking for. So this is from Lam for 27 left. We go to 11 Lam at the minimum holding level, 7,000. I think it's going to be it. That makes sense. And above 6,000 when you cross the 15 DME from BNN or that max 180 at D126 Sierra. And then cross the 131 BNN radial above 3,500. And then for 27 left, it's 10 DME ILL at 3,000. And then we can switch to the approach plate there. That's the approach plate, please. Thank you. 2,500 at 7.5 DME. And there it is. And then the missed approach is straight ahead, past 1080 or 0 DME from ILL, whichever is later. Left turn 147 at 2,000. Passing 6 miles from London, climb without delay to 3,000, then as directed. Alright, so that's all good. So that's all in the box. What we should probably do here is just make sure we have landing numbers for 27 left in Heathrow. It's a pretty long runway and it's all dry, so that should be pretty reasonable. Landing weight, I'm just looking here on my MCD really quick, 56.9, setup W plus 4 tons. For the landing fuel, that's 60.9, so we'll call it 61.2. Low auto brake, idle reverse, manual landing flaps, full auto thrust on, should be about 2,070 meters. 2,300 with a factor, so that's fine. We can definitely land on that runway. RadNav, again, I'm just checking here. ILL, 1095, 269 the inbound course, that's all good with a 3-degree glide path slope, that's good. Prague page, still 244 miles to Heathrow. Performance page. Descent 76251, that's fine. And then let's see here. So it's temperature 20, winds 200 at 10. Temperature 20, winds 200 at 10. And QNH, what did I say, 1017? Or am I missing it here? QNH 1014. 1014. And the minimums for the ILS here in London, 277. 277. And initial acceleration is at 2,000 feet, eventually climbing after 60 ME to 3,000. Alright, so I think we got everything programmed in the box. We got some weather up ahead, but it looks like it's all below us. That's the one thing you can't do in this, is you can't tilt the radar up and down, so it just shows you all the weather in that column of air all the way down. There's nothing much you can do about that. I can't change that at all, so... let's see here. Still only a ground controller in Heathrow. 14 departures. Wow, it's going to be busy there. And this is another reason why I didn't want to get the really good scenery for Heathrow, is because the aircraft alone are going to really churn my sim, trying to have that. And the scenery looks really good. I have no qualms with what they've tried to do, what iNav has tried to do with their scenery. But my God, I think my computer will just like, the frame rate will go to like 2. With all the airplanes there, as well as like really high quality scenery. So I just have the default bespoke airport. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. It's better than just default auto-generated scenery. It's got some niceness to it, but I'm hoping that it also, at the same time, it's going to be a compromise where the performance is going to be reasonable. Anyways. Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Go ahead.
Alright, since she's actually working here, I'm also going to make sure that all the items I need here. Weather's good, runway is dry, APU after landing, oh yes, it should already be running. Actually, I'm going to put no because it should already be running. Approach type ILS, threats, none. Auto land, no. Final sector, FOEFIS is required. Minimum descent altitude 277. Transition at 6,500 is reasonable. Actually, I didn't check that in the box. I should check that. Arrival airport altitude. I'm going to guess it's 77 then. Yeah, runway 77. It's good enough. And decision height, AGL, it's fine. We're not doing decision height. Okay. Save changes. Very good. Okay, so that's the one thing I didn't actually check in the box was... There's my cabin. Nobody in it. All my passengers have disappeared. Where did they all go? Descent... Transition flight level 6,500. That's fine. That'll transition for appropriate time. Okay. Yeah. Fortunately, we're above the weather, so I don't see any need to deviate around this weather. There is some weather, but we're not going to deviate around it because it looks like it's fine. Hoping for some ATCs to get a little closer in because it's going to be hectic. There's a lot of airplanes inbound and outbound in London. We got a ground controller at least. That's a start, but I'm hoping we at least get a tower because there's a lot going on. Anywho. So technical status of the aircraft. We still have the generator fault. The APU is holding the load just fine. It's not causing any trouble. So we do have the redundancy in the system. It's not an issue at this point. No further procedures required. I just have to make sure she doesn't shut it off somehow in the after landings. That's why I turned off the APU activation for the after landing phase, so she hopefully won't touch it. Just let it be. Okay, so we did that. Let me think. Note dams for the arrival in London. I'm sure there's a bunch. Didn't look through those. Anything of any interest? London Heathrow. Cranes. Runways. Looking mostly for 27 left. 45 to 430. Yeah. November 1, November 1. Yeah, 41. Alright, it's actually not that many note dams and all. This is the only one that I see that could affect us at all. November 1, November 1, and link 41. Okay, so give me my runway taxi diagram here. November 1, November Bravo 1, and link 41. Oh, there's link 41. Okay, so that's not too bad. We're going to park at Terminal 2. Convenient right turn off the runway. November 5, Whiskey or 6, something like that. Back to Terminal 2. Parking stands. Parking stands. That's what I'm looking for. So I looked at the scenery the other day, and this area is closed here. The 235, 236 in the scenery, old scenery. So we'll just have to listen carefully for our gate assignment and figure it out. Make sure that we can taxi where we need to go. I think I got all the charts there, so that seems very reasonable. All right, so yeah, note dams are checked. The arrival today is the Logan 2 hotel arrival into London Heathrow. This is on. Yeah. This is on plate 10-2 Alpha for Heathrow. All the routing constraints are all as published. Everything is programmed into the box. Max 250 knots below flight level 100 unless otherwise authorized. And the note says, do not proceed beyond Lamburn VOR without ATC clearance. There is a hold programmed at, there is a published hold at Lamburn as well as at Brasso, Sabre, and Logan. So we'll keep an eye out for all of those. And right now we're going to plan, because there's no ATC online, to fly the published transition for the initial approach to runway 27 left. That's also all as published in the box onto the ILS 27 left into Heathrow Blade 11-3. ILL 1095 269, it's all been auto-tuned. The glide slope check height at 7.5 DME is 2,500 feet, and the ILSDA of 277. Runway's at 77 feet. The missed approach is as published or otherwise advised by ATC. Initial altitude's 2,000. Climb to 3,000 past 6 DME, and the MSA is 2,200 to the northwest of the airport. It's a standard 3-degree glide slope. Pappy's left. Hiles 2 lighting system. Clear the runway on the right side. We'll call ground to taxi in. That's all I've got for the moment. Gate will be assigned by the ground controller. And yeah, let's see. I got a lot of people online here, but not too many centers. Not even too many arrivals. Luxembourg approach. More stuff on the continent. Not too much stuff. There's the EGLL 2 ground. 21705. So I'm going to tune that right now. 21705 for ground. Hopefully something else comes online, but if nothing else comes online, then we're good. In terms of the approach configuration, it's going to be a managed approach to a manual landing, localized slip coupled approach, clear for the approach. We're going to arm approach mode and the second autopilot. The anti-iso will be off for this arrival. Auto brake, we figured low is good. Max reverse and config full for landing. And config full. Autopilot come off when runways in sight, landings assured, no traffic ahead. The RadNav auto tune is good. The secondary, or sorry, the fuel prediction page shows we got 48 minutes of extra fuel. We can do a go around, do some vectors if we need to. We're going to talk on Unicom with the traffic. Secondary, I still got 27 right on there, so that actually kind of works for me. But actually, no. You know what I'm going to do is I am going to recopy it, and then I'm going to reassign this 27 right with the Lambert transition. Why am I not able to? Okay, so secondary, alright. Weird. I can't scroll to the second page of secondary. Well then. I guess we're not changing it for now. We'll just have to leave it on 27 left. It should work, but I guess it doesn't. Any questions?
No questions.
Alright, cool. I see the top of descent point coming up there, approaching Zaman, and I think that's about it. Am I running SU4 beta? No. I am not running any of the beta streams. This is still 2020, which I think is much further back, or much further along in terms of the update numbers. I just have not seen the need for 2024. I like the way 2020 runs. I just haven't seen the need for it. And here's the thing, too, is that if they ever put it on sale, I'll probably pick it up the second they put it on sale. But they have yet to put it on sale after a year and something. And I think it's a good product, but yeah. I have other places to spend my money at the time, for the time being. I really should put some effort into actually getting 2024 installed one day. This winter might be a good time to do it when I have some time, when I have downtime and I'm not going out as much. But I'm still running on 2020 and I mostly like it. The thing that really would push me now to 2024 is doing the walk around on the Fenix and programming the fuel panel and everything on the Fenix. That is the thing that more than anything has got me really like, oh, that's something that really I feel is like a difference. That like is a step up. Like I realize the graphics are supposed to be better, the level of detail, the LOD modeling and stuff is supposed to make the performance better. I've got the performance up to a point that I like it now for the most part, so I'm not as concerned about that. like I said, I have not seen a compelling use case, and especially with that debacle with the initial downloads and the problems with trying to get online and stream all this data to your computer, all those kind of issues in the beginning really make me wary of 2024. I understand why they wanted to go to an online data streaming model, because the volume of data is just more than any reasonable computer owner could ever hope to install. You basically need to have server-based distribution of scenery data, and I understand that, but just because you need it doesn't necessarily make it a good thing. There are problems with it. There are real problems with it. So yeah. We live in an era where we've proven that too much reliance on the internet is not a good thing. XP12 latest beta is looking amazing too. I haven't actually really been watching that very much. I have not been paying as much attention to this stuff as I have in the past. I don't feel like this hobby's on the wane. Again, it's one of those places where I just feel so comfortable with where I am in it now. I like my setup. I like the 320. Although that being said, actually, I did have some fun. I mentioned this earlier. I did reinstall the fly-by-wire A380 just for fun. I watched some videos of the A380, and it kind of made me yearn to like try and fly it a little bit. So I was like, you know what? This seems like it could be very interesting. So I actually did take the 380. I downloaded. I found online a copy of the A380 FCOM. So I literally went through it step by step, got the airplane up and running. Did basically not a circuit, but I did like a departure and arrival back in Toulouse, just for the fun of it. And it worked out pretty well, I have to say. Certainly knowing the Airbus A320 architecture, the A380 is not a big step up from that. There are differences. The computer systems are a little bit more advanced in the A380, but it's not impossible to kind of figure out and muddle through even without the FCOM. But having the FCOM, I was able to get through the FCOM and get the airplane started in about an hour. Certainly not memorized by any means, and I will need to probably spend some time really truly learning it, but I think that could be fun. I might actually do some A380 flying on stream at some point after I've done a little bit more practice with it. Yeah, and we all owe fly-by-wire a debt of gratitude for sure. There was a time when their freeware was the only decent thing on MSFS, and yes, 100%. What a fantastic product. Like, Fenix is just a whole nother level up. But I give lots of props to fly-by-wire because their product is free. They don't charge anyone for it, so it's all a labor of love. It's voluntary, so I will not criticize them for maybe having a product that is less mature than Fenix. Different markets, different approaches. To me, the thing that really makes Fenix compelling is the fact that the systems are so realistically detailed that you can fail any number of things and the airplane will respond in a realistic fashion. That to me is important, especially for the 320. I want to have realistic failure modes, and sometimes the controllers see me coming and they get panicky, for lack of a better word. Not panicky, but they all. I've had more than one controller comment to me that they all sit up a little straighter. They all sit up just a little straighter when they hear my voice on frequency, because I have a reputation for failing things in the airplane, especially when I know there's other controllers online, and they're not slammed. Like, I'm not gonna, I won't disrespect the controllers, and if they're slammed, I will try not to have failures on. I'll have failures on by default, but I will not trigger failures myself. But if the controllers are not totally slammed, I will do my best to try and fail things in a realistic manner and try to realistically react with them. So I'm going to react to the situation. I'm going to ask them for assistance and react to the situation. I hope that's not too loud over me now. Is there no nav light on? Did I never turn the nav light on? I must have turned the nav light on. Did I never turn the nav light on? I never turned the nav light on. That was part of the pre-flight. No, I never did that. There we go. The nav lights are on now. Anywho, but yeah, I think a lot of times controllers appreciate, on VATSIM, the controllers appreciate something different. something a little challenging, something that's unusual, so someone who's having an abnormality that maybe needs some vectors, maybe needs a hold, and needs a little bit of special handling, as opposed to the same thing, because it does, and I love being a controller, and I love, you know, just doing the same thing over and over again, too, vectoring people around for an ILS, trying to sequence traffic, but I also enjoy the challenge of trying to sequence traffic when there's something wrong, when there's something different, when there's something abnormal. I like the challenges. If it was just everybody going ILS to ILS all the time, VATSIM, I think, would become boring after a while. But it's then I think it's the people who throw something different at you, the people who fly to the smaller airports that need a non-precision approach, that need to be turfed to the Unicom for the arrival, and then call down and clear. That's the spice. That's what makes it really kind of interesting and different, and I like it. I like the change. I like something different. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and set 7,000 here because I can see this top of descent point's coming up pretty quick here in about 20 miles. So 7,000, flight level 70 set. Roger, 70. So I like to do that. I like to have that difference, something different, but I try to use my judgment too. If they really sound like the controllers are overloaded, and if a controller ever asks me to disconnect because of a, you know, I can't handle the extra workload of you doing this right now, I'm fine with that. I'll either look at it and I'll either terminate the emergency, because I respect that. I respect that they are, you know, that they are volunteers again, and they may be getting overworked. Hayden's asks, would you recommend learning GA first and MSFS before going on to learn the Fenix? I mean, I think yes, because I think the GA airplanes teach you the basics of flying, and you need to understand the basics of flying before you get in an Airbus. The Airbus is a big fancy flying computer, but it's still an airplane at the same time. You do have to understand the basics of how airplanes fly, how they react, yeah. And certainly, especially if you're going to go fly on VATSIM too, I think learning GA before you learn the airliners is important, because everything just happens at a slower pace in pretty much most GA airplanes. In general, GA airplanes, if you exclude the business jets, are slower. Things are going to happen at a slower pace. You're going to have more time to just react and think. And there's a reason why, you know, they don't take you and you don't get a license in an Airbus. I mean, part of it is the cost, but part of it is also just the practicality of it. It's moving so fast. You're covering so much ground. You need to be able to react more quickly. So I think yeah, you do need to learn the basics. I think you got to crawl before you can walk, before you can run. You got to start with the basics, and I think so many people leap in and they want to fly an Airbus right away. And there's what am I trying to say? There's there's just so much to learn in the Airbus. Like, even for licensed pilots, it's a hell of a lot of work to learn an Airbus the first time around. That's weird. There it is. Okay, speed, descent, alt, magenta. I was pressing descent and nothing was happening, but there it is. All right, so now we're starting quick flight, but I kind of like that. If I had the time, I might even consider doing it as a turn, but it's a little bit too long to do as a turn. That'd be a really long string to do as a turn. I kind of briefly considered it, but it's probably too much. Oh, good, the ground controller logged off now. Now it's just a free-for-all in Heathrow with two arrivals and 15 departures, and who knows how many people here on the arrival as well. So one thing I should probably do is put my TCAS on below and then start actually looking outside and seeing who's coming in, because anybody else that's coming into Heathrow, this is going to be a cluster with no control. Of course, woe to the controller that logs on right now and has to try and assert control over 24 airplanes. That's one of probably the biggest problems with VATSIM, is when you first log on and you're just trying to get control of the situation, and especially if it's busy and there's 15, 20, 30 airplanes that you have to deal with, just trying to wrap your head around it sometimes takes 20 minutes before you really kind of have your head wrapped around the whole situation. So yeah, it's we're going to be super early too. I'm looking at this. It's supposed to be a 2-hour and 20-minute flight. We took off at our 2-hour and 10-minute flight, so we're not supposed to even get there until 12:30, 16:30 Zulu, and we're going to be touching down at 1600. Like, we're going to be at the gate like 15, 20 minutes early today. Yeah, if somebody logged on right now, it would take them 20 minutes to get control of the situation for sure. It would not go well. But that's okay. You know, if it took time and then they needed to hold for a little bit at Lambert, I'm fine with that. I don't mind doing that. We got the fuel right now. Do I have a Discord? I do. It's not linked into my stream chat because, really, frankly, I don't spend too much time on it. It's mostly just a place I publish my schedule. But if I... Oh, let's see here if I can get the invite up. I'm really not a... I am not a professional streamer, and I don't take any time to set up this kind of stuff, really. So there is a Discord, but there's really very little that happens in it. You can send me messages on it, but I open up Discord once or twice a week. It is not something that I find it's very... I find it's very difficult to keep up with. This is my problem. Alright, so let's do an invite for you here. Alright, and I'm just going to pop this into the chat window here. But yeah, I'm not a person who's on Discord a lot. I find it's very difficult to just to keep up with it. Like, everyone seems to really like it, and I get some of the things about it, like the platform. There's a lot of good things about the way the platform integrates a lot of things. So voice communication, text communication, the ability to upload files and images and stuff directly. There's a lot of advantages to it, but the biggest disadvantage to it is the chaotic nature of it. The stream of consciousness way a lot of these channels just progress. I just want to see where this guy is, because we're going to get a TCAS-RA if we're not careful here soon. So I might even bring the speed back a little bit more, just to kind of follow them, because they're only about 5 miles ahead. There's going to be a TCAS-RA very soon if we're not careful. Yeah, my problem with Discord is just the chaotic. It's chaotic organizational structure. The various servers, first of all, but then there's direct messages too. So, like, as a VATSIM member, VATSIM has really embraced Discord, and I really kind of roll my eyes at it, like my daughter does to me. But really embraced it, and I get some of the things. But the trouble is, like, if you're not involved in the channel 24/7, stuff just goes by, and there's no kind of organized way to kind of bring back the overarching topics. It's just one long continuous stream of conversation, much like the conversation we're having here. And that works in certain respects, in certain aspects, and then certainly on a live stream, that kind of a streaming conversation works, where, you know, you don't need to know what happened before to kind of understand what's happening now. But but in an organization like various VATSIM organizations, where okay, I'm going to go back to manage speed here, where, like, there's important information that gets there's important information that needs to be disseminated, but the important information gets lost very easily in Discord. It quickly scrolls out and is gone, and nobody remembers it. So if you're not in there like 24/7, you're out. You're completely out. There's no organization to the topics. It's just kind of a huge thing. This is what I mean here now. See what the engines are trying to do here, get the power back up here. And yeah, okay, it's going to take a little while to accelerate, but a little overreaction almost there. So I personally find Discord to be a very chaotic place to keep track of if you're not in it 24/7, and I do not have the time to be in it 24/7. I just do not. And if you're not in it 24/7, then you're out. You might as well be out, because it's just impossible to ever keep up with it. So I find that aspect of it, it doesn't work with these large organizations that have people that come and go at different times, and like a lot of the VATSIM FIRs do. So that's my problem with it. It's not so much with what it's trying to be, but it's with people trying to use it in ways that are just, it doesn't work for the person who's not involved 24/7. And I love VATSIM, and I'm on it multiple times a week, but I'm not involved 24/7. I'm not reading the messages every single day to see what the latest thing is, because the other thing too is that there's no way to sort out the chit chat, the chatter that goes on from the important things that are actually being mentioned. It's all just one long continuous stream, and everything's intermingled. There's no way to, like, okay, here's important topics. Like, there's a couple of announcements, but like other minor but important topics that don't like necessarily make it up to announcement level just get lost in this general din that goes on, and you don't see the stuff, so you don't know what's going on. That's the problem with Discord. It's not so much, and it's the nature of trying to force these organizations that need to be somewhat organized into a chaotic structure. The chaotic structure works when you're gaming with people. What it was originally intended for was people who game together, and they could, you know, voice chat and text chat live while they're gaming, and that's fine because like you don't need to know the history. You're there interacting in real time, person. But it's for these. It doesn't work very well for an asynchronous community. There are advantages to it, like I said, like the ability to post files and images and that sort of stuff, really good. But as a communication medium, it sucks. As an asynchronous communication medium, it just sucks. It really does. Forums were better for that kind of asynchronous thing because you come back and you could see the topics that have been talked about, and things were divided up more in a more organized fashion. You could prioritize what was important to read, what was not important to read, and keep track of. But in Discord, it's much harder to organize. For the people who are in there chatting 24/7 and have it running on their phone and never put their phone down, it's fine. But for people who are out of touch for days at a time and then come back, there's 1,000 messages. All right, you're gonna miss the chaos of Heathrow, but all right. You got to do what you got to do. You can watch it anyways. I'll post it on YouTube hopefully within about a week, and you can watch the last couple of minutes of the chaos that will be landing in Heathrow here. But we are following this guy. It seems to be working out okay for us here. We got thrust idle, descent alt magenta for the 16,000 restriction at Sabre. Still waiting to see some ATC come online. Yeah, you can watch it and catch up later. Exactly. But thank you for being here and chatting. It's nice to chat, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. Definitely could see the scenery coming in there. What was I trying to do? I was trying to just bring up the radar and see. Still no controllers. It's just going to be a free for all, which is just fantastic. Okay, I thought for sure by now it's almost 5 p.m. in the UK. I would have thought for sure by now there would be some controllers online. I mean, it's a weekday, so, you know, people are coming home from work in the next little while, so maybe I was a little bit too early, but, well, whatever. It'll be fun. I do have Unicom up, right? Yeah, we have Unicom up, so that's the frequency everyone should be on. More drag, huh? Yeah, it's getting a little high on the path again here. Five miles in trail of this guy, so that should work out just nicely here. We'll just keep following this guy. Alright, we're going to stick with 27 left since that's what was published on the ATIS last before the guy went offline. Oh, this is going to be chaotic. I'm surprised I'm not hearing a lot of transmissions on Unicom. This is what's kind of surprising to me, is that nobody's transmitting. At least nobody's transmitting on voice anyways. There are people. For some reason, I don't hear the sound. I'm not hearing the sound message from notes in the Unicom channel on text. Okay, so when we get about 20 miles out, if we approach Lambert, I think we'll start making calls here on Unicom. Before that, I think we're just going to be causing... The trouble is, like, you don't want to be too early on Unicom. You don't want to be too late, but you don't want to be too early because you don't want to be transmitting to people who are 150 miles away that are really not relevant to your situation here. So when we get to Lambert, we'll kind of start transmitting on Unicom at that point, and I think I'm going to have to do it on text. I hate doing it on text because, like, it's just such a distraction, but I think it's the only way for the volume of traffic that we're going to be dealing with here in Heathrow. It is going to cause the freight rate to stutter more than a few times, I think. Okay. to make sure we remember to transition at 6,500. The airplane will remind us as well. All right. Over the English countryside. Hopefully she'll read some approach checklist to me and stuff like this, because I really could use the help on this approach today. Okay. Making me nervous going in here with no ATC, just for the sheer volume of VATSIM traffic. Now, I will say that, like, especially at London Heathrow and in Europe, VATSIMers seem to be generally more on the ball. But maybe I'm generalizing too much, because there will always be people who are not on the ball. There are people who will be on the ball. There will be people who will not be on the ball. So I should probably not be generalizing too much here, but I'd like to think that this is going to work out quite well here. All right, so we got the 250 knots up ahead for Weasel. I can see the traffic is still 5 miles ahead, so that's working out just fine, assuming they're not a heavy. That should be sufficient spacing. Speedbird 399 is a 319, so that'll work out just fine. I can stay 5 miles behind a 319. That's fine. Won't be able to squeeze anybody else in between us if there's anybody else trying to get in there, unless I do some self-vectoring, so we'll see how that works, but yeah, pity there's no ATC. I thought for sure we'd have ATC at this end. Thrust idle. Alright. There's the 250 knot deceleration. Actually, I thought we hit 250 knot. Oh, no, that's just the increase. That's the lower constraint. So when you get below 10,000 feet, the 10,000 foot speed limit kicks in. It doesn't allow a plus 20 knot window on that. It only allows a plus 5 knot window on that. So need a little bit of help there. Approach checklist. Approach checklist.
Barrel ref.
Standard set. 1013 set. QNH
1013 set. Seatbelt.
On.
Minimum.
277 feet set.
Auto brake.
Low selected. Low armed.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Approach checklist completed.
Okay. Alright. So we're crossing Lamburn. Here comes London into sight. We're just going to follow the published transition. Looks like this guy's taking the shortcut. I'm just going to follow the published transition today. I think it's more organized that way when there's no ATC online. There's nothing wrong with doing it the other way, but I just find more organized this way. Alright, so there's no ATC online, so we're going to cross Lamburn at flight level 70, and then we're going to continue descent. Here comes a 220 knot slowdown. So far, my frame rate seems to be holding up okay. Famous last words. Pity even the ground controller logged off. I was hoping for gate assignment. I know Terminal 2 per flight aware, but nothing more specific than that. Alright, now my throat is starting to run out of ability to talk here. Alright, I'm going to set 3,000 for intercepting the ILS. So I got speed descent, or sorry, speed all-star descent blue. And basically we do kind of just a little winding S-turn to the left. Is there a different frequency? Because I'm pretty sure it's just the Unicom frequency. Is there a different frequency for London Heathrow's Unicom? I don't think there is. Is there? feel like there shouldn't be. I feel like there shouldn't be, but maybe there is, because I'm not seeing anybody on this frequency. But I'm pretty sure the CTAF trial does not apply outside of North America still, right? As of February 20th, 2024, which is over a year ago now, the CTAF trial has expanded and continues in VAT USA, VATCAN, VATCAR, and VATMAX. That's it, not in Europe. So I don't know what frequency I'm supposed to be on, but not much is being said on this frequency. Which is a little bit weird because there's so many airplanes out there, you would think that there's a lot of talking going on this frequency. But we'll just continue inbound. We'll keep an eye on the TCAS. That guy went pretty direct, which is good. It actually bought us some spacing, which is great. We'll have to keep an eye out for departures. Oh, excuse me. On 27 left, so we're about to swing the left turn here. Make sure I have my charts up in the other window here, since this is a pretty complicated transition here. I want to make sure I'm flying it correctly. Yeah, so we're trying to intercept the 126 radial outbound, so it's just a gradual left turn here to intercept that. Next speed restriction will be 180 knots, so let's go flaps 1.
Speed check. Flaps 1.
No change in status, we're moving the status. So it looks like we start the decel. We're pretty much at the next waypoint there. Weird how nobody's on this frequency. Why is nobody on this frequency? Alright, there's transition. 1014. Selected. Comes our next level off, 6,000. Need the LS button there too. That would probably help. Actually, I'm amazed at how good the frame rate is actually staying on this. It's actually quite good, because London has always been one of those places. London, New York, Toronto, some of these cities just have a reputation in the sim for just constantly being terribly terrible on your frame rate. Something, I heard a triple click. Whoa, why are we going so fast? Let's get the speed brakes out here. Should have been more prepared for this, I guess. Alright, let's go. Gear down.
Gear down.
I was not prepared for the steepness of that descent.
Cabin crew be seated for landing.
Should have had flaps too. Oh, here comes the hesitations. Spoke too soon. Now the frame rate's dying on me here. As expected. Flaps 2.
Speed check. Flaps 2.
Alright. Should have had flaps 2 out before we started down. I kind of was wondering about that. I wasn't looking very carefully at the descent rate there. Alright, speed 180. I've got Cat 3 dual, autopilot 1 and 2, low and glide slope blue.
Checked.
Glide slope, low star.
Checked.
Missed approach altitude 2,000 feet set. Heathrow traffic, Scandinavian 501, 10 mile final, 27 left Heathrow. And there's the airport coming into sight. I do see a bunch of flashing lights over the right side. Hopefully the left side stays clear for me here. Loke.
Checked.
Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Wonder if that hesitation was when all the airplanes suddenly came into view. Had to start drawing them all. Speed 160 selected. That was 7.1 DME 2500. Just about 2,000 feet.
Checked.
Flaps full.
Speed checked. Flaps full.
Landing checklist.
ECAM memo.
Landing no blue. No blue. Landing no blue.
Landing checklist completed.
Alright, I'm going to mute her for a second. Alright, runway appears clear. Looks like the departures are still all going off the right side. So that's good.
1,000.
A couple little hesitations here and there. It's not terrible, but definitely some hesitations here and there. Alright. I actually need this to be just a little bit lower. Alright. Just for a normal kind of arm position on my side stick. Alright. Autopilot's off. Here we go. Let's see if I've learned how to fly. Cat 1. Or learn how to land after the update. And what I did find is that the landing is now much more like the real thing. I used to land the sim, land the flight sim differently than you land the real airplane. Now it seems to work. Alright. Now it seems to work quite well. Left crosswind today. Yeah, this hesitations and the stutters are kind of why I didn't want the really, really good I&I built scenery. Land. Because it would have been just too much.
100 above.
Roger.
Minimums.
Continue. Landing will be nice if the sim doesn't stutter too much on me here. Alright, we got spoilers.
Reverse screen. Decel.
Manual brakes. Not going to quite make that one, so we'll just roll to the next. It was going pretty well, and then it kind of hesitated in the flare there, which did not work to my advantage. really jammed on the brakes. I probably could have made that last one. Alright, I don't know which way to go at all. It's completely a shit show. Oh, who said that? I just don't know which way to go because there's just so many airplanes here. There's so many taxiways and there's no guidance. And it's not an airport that I am familiar with. So we're just going to take this right here and the second right turn here. We're going to go to Terminal 2. I know that. I'm just not sure how we're going to get there. Okay, so she's going to do her thing. I am going to summon GSX then, because I have no gate assignment. 117 suitable gates. Fantastic. This will take a little while to get through. It's going to be 200 and something here. And I might just come to a stop for a second and just set the parking brake, just so I can look for a second and contemplate. Let's see here. So where are my parking stands? Yeah. So 217 would be fine. Alright, 217 it is. I don't know who it's supposed to be, so we'll go with that. That's fine. Okay. Alright. Well, we made it to London Heathrow. No ATC, so we're doing what we can here. It is definitely... My sim is a little more sluggish than usual. It's not sluggish like I can't deal with it sluggish, but it's definitely more sluggish than usual. So, not totally unexpected given the level of detail. And this is just the default Microsoft Flight Simulator bespoke scenery. And it's okay. It's not, like, fantastic. I wouldn't, like, write home and say, like, this is the best scenery I've ever seen. But it's not terrible either. It's definitely very reasonable. Like, it's not just blocky gray buildings. There is some level of realism to it. So, like, it's a compromise I'm willing to accept to get the kind of performance out of this sim that otherwise I don't think I would be able to sustain. It's amazing, like, when you're flying around London, how much scenery there is. And it's really nice and it's great, but boy, is it busy. Boy, is it hard on the frame rates. Alright, so there are some airplanes around here. So we're going to have to go left on Terminal 2. So this is Terminal 1 right here. No, it's Terminal 3 right here. So we have to go past this and into the Terminal 2 ramp, and we select a gate 217. So we should have GSX waiting for us there now. I never did figure out if this thing was tracking me the rest of the time after we took off. It does look like it tracked stage taxi in, so it knows what we're doing here. One thing that I will say after this last update, I noticed actually now that I mentioned talking about the auto thrust, is that the airplane does seem to have more get up and go on the ground. If you're not at like a super heavy weight, it does kind of take off the blocks pretty easily, a little bit unrealistically fast. It really it's a little bit slower to accelerate than this, especially at idle thrust. For me not moving the thrust levers, it shouldn't be going quite this fast. Idle thrust is definitely not this speed. It will pick up speed eventually, but I think, and maybe it's just my impression, but I think it's a little bit too much. It accelerates a little bit too quickly. I was flying the other day, and like I was just riding the brakes all the way to the runway. All the way to the runway, just riding the brakes, and that's not realistic. You don't ride the brakes all the way to the runway. You do have to apply them from time to time, but like it was just like, if I wasn't riding the brakes, we would have been at like 50 knots by the time we got to the end of the taxiway. So I'm trying to kind of apply them evenly here. Oh, and then there's a 2E in the alley there, so we'll have to wait for him to move. Fantastic. After landing checklist.
Radar and predictive wind shear system.
Off.
After landing, checklist completed.
Alright, we're just waiting for them to come out because we have to go in there. And hopefully they're not too long here. We'll give them a couple minutes. Otherwise we'll change the gate, but this is our alley here. We just need to be to the left of where he is right there, so. If there is a frequency here, I don't know it. I'm just going to actually look at my VATSIM map right now and see what frequency people are tuned into, because it just seems like, no, it's on Unicom. Unicom. No, they're all on Unicom. No, some of them are not on Unicom. This guy's not on Unicom, but most of them appear to be on Unicom, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to think. Who's screaming? Alright, so hopefully this guy is not going to take too long here. I mean, this is what happens sometimes. Sometimes you got to wait for the gate. Sometimes you got to wait for the gate. I just hope it's not going to be more than a couple minutes here, otherwise we'll just select another gate. I could probably do gate like 220 here, which is the first gate here on the left. This is the not so exciting side of aviation, where you're sitting here waiting for something to happen. Waiting for a gate. Is he moving? Oh, he's moving. He's moving. Awesome. Nice. Sometimes you just need to be patient. Alright. So go ahead and take the parking brake off. I'm assuming he's not going to turn towards us. Just put the taxi light back on while I'm here. Accumulator's good. Weather radar's confirmed, ice off, the anti-ice is off. Just the lights to go as we get to the gate. Nice. Good. I'm glad we didn't have to wait too long. Hopefully we can get to gate 217, but alright. Follow the yellow line around, keeping in mind that that nose wheel is way behind us, so if we're over the yellow line, then our nose wheel is not. It's not so bad if we're in a 320, but in a 321, you need to be conscious of it. You need to always kind of oversteer a little bit. In most cases, you really don't need to. It's only been 1 or 2 occasions in a 320, 321 where I really actually had to oversteer something. Where there's like a non-filleted 120 degree, 150 degree left turn, you're like, yeah. But that's not common. So 217 should be the second last gate here, so it should be this one here, I think. Do I see anybody here? I see a lot of like junk here, so like, let's do this. Just because I want to make sure, because I just don't see the guy here. And yeah, this is the spot. Okay. Because like in the real world, like, because the trouble is like the scenery doesn't always match the charts now. My Navigraph charts are up-to-date real world charts. The scenery is probably outdated by a couple of years from when the sim was installed. So I don't see my marshaller, so I'm sure he must be there somewhere in this gaggle of equipment here, because I see the GSX ground crew waiting there, so I just don't see the marshaller per se. He's somewhere buried in all this equipment. Oh, that's him right there. Oh, okay. In the blue jacket, not in the green vest. Are you okay? Is that it? What do you? Does it keep going? Okay, no, it is stopped. What weird hand signals he was doing, I don't know. All right, there's the parking brake. AP bleeds available. Not going to be any click from that side because there is no generator on that side. Please remember to submit your flight. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Cabin crew disarm slides and cross-check. That's her trigger. Turning off the seatbelt sign. I was trying to figure out what her trigger was. Okay. It looks like we got everything done. Parking checklist.
Parking brake or chocks?
Are set. Set.
Engines.
Off.
Wing lights.
Off.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking checklist completed.
Woohoo! We made it. All right. We're going to start shutting down the APU because that's what they want us to do in Europe, is shut it down as soon as you got ground power and ground air. But we made it. We are at the gate in London Heathrow. Nice. Find some other external view maybe. Come on. Come on, chase plane. Show me something different. Show me something different. This one? There we go. Anywho. Yeah, we made it, everybody. Nice. Without the ATC, we somehow still made it. It wasn't actually too chaotic. I wasn't as bad as I thought. I was worried that without the ground control, it's a good thing there was a ground controller on that did have an ATIS, so everyone's kind of setting up based on their plan, the arrival 27 left, departure 27 right situation. So I think that made our lives a lot easier. I think if there hadn't been a ground controller on previously, I think it would have been, it would have gone badly. Didn't mean to turn it down so suddenly, but just turn that down a little bit there. I think that would have gone badly if there hadn't been originally a ground controller and an ATIS on VATSIM to kind of get everybody organized with one particular plan. So, anyways, I'm going to hit submit on my flight here. And next it's going to be the return flight. I believe we go back to Copenhagen, I think. I don't think we go to, or maybe we go to Oslo. It'll show us in a second here. It's just crunching the numbers, thinking about things. And it's back to Copenhagen, London back to Copenhagen, which is fine. That was a nice length flight. We got a chance to talk. We got a chance to see some things, do some things, get some ATC. At least we had ATC for departure if we didn't have for arrival. Hopefully next time we'll get it for arrival. Anyways, I've got to head out and do some stuff, guys, so I hope you have enjoyed this flight today. Definitely a lot of fun. I wish we could do it more often. It probably will be the last one for September. Maybe I might get one the last week of September. We'll see. But in the meantime, guys, stick with me. I'll have this on YouTube shortly. I'll try to do an ATC stream sometime this month. I don't guarantee it's going to happen. My schedule's been weird, but I hope it is going to happen sometime soon. I would love to do it. It just, I find I just don't have the time. I have not put as much time into controlling as I would normally like to in the last 3 months. I'm struggling a little bit to make sure I meet all my minimum activity requirements. So it is a bit of a challenge for me, but I am going to try and do it sometime soon. So anyways, in the meantime, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching today, flying with me today. I appreciate the support as always. And yeah, hopefully I will see you guys all out there on the VATSIM skies. Take care and have a great rest of your day, everybody.